What's up, everybody, and welcome to tonight's episode of Chad O. Jackson Live. I had to rush here to the studio. I wasn't exactly ready, but I guess I have no choice but to be ready now. Um, what's up, Blanche? How are you?
What's up, Chad?
You doing all right, man?
Yeah.
I couldn't find my earbuds anywhere, so if y'all are hearing an echo, that's why. Let me try to see if I can get this connected real quick.
I don't hear echo.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Let's see. That should be better. And apologize for my mug being all up in the screen like this. I can't find my other lens that gives me a wider view. So this is what you got to deal with tonight. So tonight we're going to be discussing, as part of the series that I've been doing on the crisis of the modern Negro intellectual, I wanted to give the audience a example of someone who considers himself to be a public intellectual, like a Michael Eric Dyson. And then I want to show an example of how the rhetoric of men like Michael Eric Dyson reverberates into the black ether, as it were. Give examples of men being super emotional and triggered by certain words. There's a story that broke yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Was that yesterday, Blanche, or the day before yesterday?
Which one? The
monkeys.
Oh.
So anyway, I wanted to get into that, but before we do, Blanche, what do you think about white people using the word nigga or nigger?
I think that the only reason black folks have a problem with it is because they feel like white people are privileged and they have everything else. So it's like the one thing they hold on to is the N-word. So the intent behind not wanting white people to say it is not because of offense. It's just because you feel like white folks get away with enough. You know, this is our one thing, which is the N-word. So it's funny that they didn't choose education. They didn't choose, Christ. They didn't choose building. They didn't choose land. They didn't choose anything. They chose the N-word. Black folks planted their flag on the N-word. So, yeah.
Do you think black men being super triggered by the word nigger or being called nigga by somebody like a white person who thinks that they're cool or whatever, like, yeah, we should be cool, I grew up around you or whatever, therefore I should be justified in using it? Do you think that that the black men that do get super offended are justified in their being offended?
No, and I say no because of the intent.
Right.
You can't use it in songs and use it as it's disingenuous.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, and the N-word is not really a term of endearment. That's another thing.
Right.
It's the whole premise behind the N-word is false. So yeah, they're sensitive and getting triggered because they believe when a white person is saying it to them, the white person is actually looking at them as a nigger, not a nigga. But if we're honest, when the term nigga is used, when is it ever used positively? Like, you don't tell your grandma, "Hey, what's up, nigga?" You don't say that to your you don't use it as a term of respect. It's only used as a demeaning term. So you will always like, you'll say, "Look at them niggas over there. These niggas," like, it's never positive. So even when black folks use it, it isn't positive. So I just think that, black folks or black men just want to.
What about when a black woman says, "Oh, this is my nigga," or, you know what I'm saying? Like, she uses it in terms of like saying her man or her boyfriend. Like, yeah, my nigga is about to come pick me up.
Well, you know what type of woman that would be. So I mean, that goes without saying. I mean, the Shanquishas and the Starishas and the Sharkeishas, them, yeah. So they would use it as a term of endearment. But even still, there's a line drawn with the N-word being used, and most of the time it's not positive. Like, I've never heard anybody call Barack nigga as a term of endearment.
I have.
As a term of endearment?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay,
remember,
how about Michelle Obama?
I never heard her call Barack Obama my nigga.
Although it'd be more fitting for
who's
her.
the guy? Who's that guy? He's one of those comedians that's not.
Oh,
funny.
comedian. Okay, yeah, comedian.
Remember that? It was during like a White House Correspondents' Dinner. You don't remember that? He got up there and he was supposed to be giving jokes or whatever, but he.
Oh yes.
What's that guy's name? The comedian.
I don't know. He's not funny though. I know you're talking about though. He's like brown skin, a little short, natural. What is he on?
I know he has a podcast, but and they talk about race issues, of course.
But for the most part, I just feel like the N-word is specifically used in subculture, and I've seen white folks get a pass using it. There's a guy in Memphis. I think they call him. Do they even call him white folks, or they call him something? Anyway, he can use it. He gets a pass. I've seen other races get a pass. You go to California, Hispanics use it, Asians use it. You know, everybody uses it in California. So again, to me, it's fine for everybody to use it except white people. Yeah.
And you think that's because of what Black folks perceive to be white privilege?
Yeah.
It's kind of like seeing white people as God, and you don't want God to offend you. You don't want God to not approve of you. And so by this white person who you perceive as God calling you a nigga or a nigger, it crushes your soul more than a Black person calling you it or a Hispanic person calling you it, because you actually want the white man's approval more so than you want the Black man's approval or the Mexican man's approval.
And I would argue to say, even Chad, that I see Black people get more offended by nigga than nigger. Because at least with nigger, it kind of, you know, it's kind of par for the course. But when they use niggas, like they're trying to infiltrate, you know, the Black space. They're trying to sneak into the cookout.
Get in on this.
Yeah.
On this niggerdom. No, I agree with that. I wanted to play this Michael Eric Dyson clip. Actually, there's two of them. One of them's from like 15 years ago, and the other is from 7 years ago, whenever Bill Maher was under fire for calling himself a house nigga. So let's look at this. Let's look at this first one from 20. Have you seen this clip where he had Russell? What's the producer? He's not as much of a producer as much as he is a he's somehow mixed up in the rap industry. Russell Simmons, I think, is his name. Am I thinking of the right person?
Is he Black or is
Black?
Producer, I think Russell.
Is Russell Simmons that gay guy with the curly hair? The Jewish guy with the curly hair that does the exercise?
Oh, Rick Rubin?
No. I'm thinking of a Black guy. He was somehow mixed up with Run DMC, and anyway.
That's Russell. Well, he just owned the record label. Russell Simmons.
Russell Simmons. There you go. Russell Simmons. So that's who the first clip is with. And then the second one, like I said, is with Bill Maher. And we're gonna break this down. We're gonna dissect it, and then we're gonna get to examples of what Michael Eric Dyson is talking about in both clips. With ordinary lay Black men who are trying to basically get a payday is how I would chop it up. All right, let's see here. What did I do with that clip? I'm like you, Blanche. I can't find what I did with this clip.
Find the clip is a struggle.
I found it. Here it is.
Matter. Words have power, material effect, visceral intensity. And when you use a word that has an extensive and deeply painful history, you shouldn't be surprised when people get upset. Earlier this month, actress Gwyneth Paltrow was in Paris, attending a concert given by pal Jay-Z and Kanye West. Referencing perhaps the most popular song off the album, Watch the Throne, Paltrow tweeted, "N-words in Paris for real." Perhaps more troubling than her casual use of the word is the photo she attached to the tweet. It shows Paltrow on stage at the concert with 3 Black males. Paltrow issued yet another tweet suggesting her use of the N-word was justified because Jay-Z and Kanye use it. Hold up, it's the title of the song. Paltrow missed the point. This is the most heinous word in the history of American vocabularies, of character, and of assessment of another people, African-American people, that is. Joining me now is Russell Simmons, founder of the news media site, Global Grind, who argued, quote, "We were able to take a vicious racist term and make it a term of endearment. What up, my, that's up."
So first thoughts in seeing this before we finish the clip, Blanche.
Contextually, she used the term right, because she showed a picture of Kanye and Jay-Z on stage performing the song.
Niggas and they call themselves niggas in Paris.
Right. So, and then she just said, well, it's really niggas in Paris. Like, so, I mean, contextually, she used it right.
Right. Right.
You know, I just think it's crazy that you call yourself something and then tell one group of people they can't call you that. It's just it's just insane. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's insane.
Right, right. And to me, like, the whole optic of a grown man sitting up there talking about what words is hurtful and frightening and causes all this trauma and all this other stuff Michael Eric Dyson is talking about is like, it puzzles me, Blanche, how on the one hand they do all this complaining and belly aching, and then at the same time they want to be taken seriously. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to be taken seriously when all you do is sit up there and complain. This time it's you know, the fact that this white lady used the N-word when that just so happens to be the name of the song. She was invited on stage by Kanye West and Jay-Z, apparently, and apparently there's a connection there. And so for her to use the name of the song in the tweet, like, your average person would understand the context there. But for this grown man to sit up on television and bellyache over that word and at the same time wonder why white people don't take him seriously, like, how do you miss that? Like, how do you miss those, you know, how do you not correlate the fact that you're not taken seriously because all you do is bellyache over menial things, you know? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I remember one time Kendrick Lamar was at a concert and he put a white girl on stage. And
do you think he was setting her up, by the way?
Yes. I mean, he asked her to rap his song, the song where he uses nigga a lot in the song. So you're asking her to rap this song, but you're asking her to be a human engineer and mute the N-word on every verse when she's like, it's insane. Like, it's ridiculous. And then so she's rapping and she says it, and he's like, oh, how could you say that? I'm like, dude, again, if you don't want people using the word, then stop putting it in the music. Stop putting it in comedic acts. Stop putting it in movies. Like, if you don't want folks to use it, then stop using the word. You see the other racial slurs. You don't see other races using them. You don't see Hispanics using spick or Jews using kike, or you don't see any other group using these racial slurs. Now you may see the LGBTQs using the F word, but you pretty much other races don't want you to say it, so they don't say it. And so black people just want to have, again, they want to be able to hold some of white people's head. They even be like, just, you can't say this and just dangle this, like, you. It's crazy.
So I grew up in the South here in Texas, and I can honestly say that when I would visit family in Oklahoma, which is also a southern state, or Arkansas, which is also a southern state, there's a certain element of like white rural society that do refer to each other as Peckerwood.
Yeah.
I have seen that, but it's not like, what's up, my Peckerwood, or anything like that. Like, it's almost like it's in passing. Like, yeah, that Peckerwood came down here the other day. I have seen that, but it's not used as frequently, and it's not omnipresent in rural white America as much as it is omnipresent in black culture. To your point, you see it in magazines, you see it in songs, you hear people using it on the street for multiple purposes. Whereas you have to go into this niche kind of society to hear white people refer to other white people as Peckerwood. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I agree with you. And so again, it's like a subculture.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, even if my grandparents used the N-word, it was rare, but it was specifically because they were some N-words.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like they was just N-word, N-word, N-word. No, it was like them niggas over there was doing. So it was specific. They were doing something behavioral wise that made them get that term. And so just like a white person say that Peckerwood over there, like my father, all he used was Peckerwood. Like in California, that's what they use is Peckerwood, Peckerwood. That's what they say. But I think it's used so much that it kind of loses its negative connotation. That makes sense. Because it becomes part of the language you use. So it's not like Peckerwood is in I hate you, but just Peckerwood because you black. But my dad would also use the N-word too. So it wouldn't just be Peckerwood. Peckerwood, it'd be, you know, niggas and Peckerwood. So
you're right. Yeah. No, that's actually a really good point. There's this I'm trying to find this clip. There's this woman, she's old in the video, old white woman. I think this video was shot in the 1930s, if I'm not mistaken. She was talking about having grown up in the 1800s, and she refers to herself as, "Oh, I'm just a Georgia cracker." And this is an elderly white woman talking. So she refers to herself as, "Oh, I'm just a Georgia cracker." And like that to me was very interesting because, you know, when you go back and look at the word nigger and how it was used, it wasn't used strictly as a derogatory term. It was used basically as a slang term to refer to a group of people in the same way that cracker was used and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And the word cracker, Thomas Sowell actually talks about this. What didn't originate in the States, it originated in England. And I forget exactly the how the word came about. Because of the fact that the rural kind of like lower income element of this certain subsect in England, they were known for cracking jokes all the time, like for not really taking life seriously, for basically being kind of frivolous in how they approach things, and they were always ragging on each other. So they would always crack jokes on each other. So that's where that term comes from, cracker, which again refer to a certain low income, dirty kind of element of England. And so that word was used by kind of the upper classes, the more well-to-do white folks, to refer to a certain element. And so, you know, these words, these terms, they've long existed. They are not exclusive to black folks. Yet and still, you see folks like Michael Eric Dyson and other so-called black intellectuals and activists, they get all bent out of shape and contorted when they hear a white person using this word, as if words like this haven't existed for the whole of mankind, to refer to certain groups and people and elements and so on. But I don't know, blacks, I mean, I'm not sure what happened. So blacks, you know, whether you're talking about,
you saw it in the room.
so blacks, you know, when it comes to slavery, when it comes to slavery, which we all know, and we say this all the time, blacks weren't the only folks who were slaves in human history. Yet and still, they act like they were, right? When it comes to segregation and separation, and the fact that blacks couldn't, patronize certain businesses or go through certain doors, this didn't only exist for blacks; it existed for every group. Whether you're talking about Italians, Irish, Mexicans, Asians, so on and so forth. There were separations, and people chose to separate themselves, and in some cases, it was called segregation. But yet and still, black, you would think, listening to these Negroes today, that it only existed for black folks. When it comes to words that are used, same deal. You would think that it was only exclusive to black folks. And so the reality of it is, it's not that it has all this trauma and all this baggage that they claim. It's rather that you chose to take it to heart. It's rather that you chose to get all bent out of shape and get over emotional about it, more so than any other ethnic group who realize it's just, people rag on each other. That just is what it is, because I mean, imagine that a elderly woman in the 1930s referring to herself as just a Georgia cracker. I mean, and to your point about your grandparents, and the same is true of my grandparents, and the same still remains true of my aunts living today, who refer to a certain element as yeah, those niggas. Like it's understood what is meant by these words, and so the fact that you selectively gets all butthurt and bent out of shape because a certain person is using this word says more about you than the person using the word. Anyway, did you have any other comments before we continue on with the clip?
Even with the word cracker, you know, and I really take black folks what they say as far as history with a grain of salt. They said the word cracker came from the white person cracking the whip, but I don't believe that just because. It doesn't make any sense because most people didn't own slaves. Like the term for that term to have come from that.
Who said that?
Black folks said it. Black folks said
it. Oh, okay. I thought you said somebody in the comment section said that.
No, somebody in the comment section said it. They said it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Somebody said it, but
some people just don't want to learn.
Right, but it doesn't really make any sense because usually these terms come from something that's more prevalent than just somebody getting whooped with a whip. Like, you know what I'm saying? That doesn't happen like every day, all the time. You walk down the street, or you like, you know, it didn't happen like that because the state got to be able to work. And I think Hollywood did black folks a grave disservice because Hollywood shaped the narrative on what we get from slavery and race and all this stuff. And so black people's version of slavery is very cinematic. And it's very from television, it's very from Hollywood, and so black people have literally internalized slavery. That's why that one movie they made, 12 Years a Slave, it was a horror film. It was horrible. Like I remember,
it was pornography. I think
like
it was masochist pornography.
Yes, and how about the movie Precious? I'm like, these films are created.
Lee Daniels, right?
Yeah, but they're not created for artistic expression. They're created to drive home more programming. And so I'm like, what's the point of this movie? The man was free and he got caught again. Now he's a slum. It's like, what the? It's just. Anyway, my point, Chad,
is it based on a true story or is it like, what's the deal with it?
Well, now they can say that it can be. So when black folks make a film, they'll say loosely based on events that occurred. And so that could literally mean somebody told them and is, you know, is it based on a true story?
Produced by Brad Pitt, of course. Another white woman. Another white man.
Keep going down.
Another white man.
Israeli, liberal Jews, liberal whites.
Right.
Then they got two non-American people starring in it. Actually, three. The stars of the film aren't even American.
Of course, this bozo's in it.
Oh,
Alfred Woodford. Yeah. Let's see here. 12 Years a Slave is a 2013 biographical drama film directed by Steve McQueen from a screenplay by John Ridley. Solomon Northup. Yeah, so it's based on a screenplay that was written by John Ridley based on the 1853 slave memoir, 12 Years a Slave by Solomon Northup. So let's see. Solomon Northup died in 1864, was an American abolitionist and the primary author of the memoir 12 Years a Slave, a freeborn African-American from New York. He was the son of a freed slave and a free woman of color, a farmer and a professional violinist. Northup had been a landowner in Washington County, New York in 1841. He was offered a traveling musician's job and went to Washington, D.C., where slavery was legal. There he was drugged and kidnapped for slavery.
That's where the story. That's where
he was shipped to New Orleans, purchased by a planter, and held as a slave for 12 years in the Red River region of Louisiana, mostly in Avolius Parish. He remained a slave until he met Samuel Bass, a Canadian working on his plantation, who helped get word to New York, where state law provided aid to free New York citizens who had been kidnapped and sold into slavery. His family and friends enlisted the aid of the governor of New York, Washington Hunt, and Northup regained his freedom on January 3rd, 1853. I doubt that he was drugged. He was probably taking drugs and drinking and somehow ended up on the wrong carriage headed southbound.
I know he was up. I know he was uppity because he he was born free. His dad was a farmer, his mom a professional violinist, so he probably thought he was something, like he got a little good hair on him. So he probably thought he was somebody, and he probably was down there talking crazy. And,
I'm sure it was justified.
Yeah.
See,
look how he writes. He writes too well. He writes too well. Yeah, I know. You couldn't tell him nothing. He probably lost a bet. Anything. He wasn't.
I wonder if the movie Life. Remember that movie Life with Martin Lawrence and Eddie Murphy? I wonder if it had any kind of connection to 12 Years a Slave before 12 Years a Slave came out.
You mean
because there were a couple of Northern boys, right, in the movie Life,
bootleggers,
and they went to the South to hit a lick, and somehow or another got framed and ended up in a Mississippi prison. I need to watch it. I haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah,
my favorite character was Hoppin' Bob. He said, "I ain't nice like Boss."
Oh yeah. Boy, shut your fat. Boy, shut your. When he busted that room and told that story, boy, shut your fat and your fat mouth.
When they're telling the story about the juke joint.
Yeah. Y'all in here with dreams and aspirations. Boy, shut up, go to sleep. Y'all try to be somebody, be quiet. Trying to get these folks riled up, try to give them some hope. Boy, shut your mouth.
Oh, Lord have mercy. But I don't know. I see similarities kind of between those two stories. I don't know. Do you believe that this guy was drugged?
No,
Solomon Northup?
I don't. Listen to me. I don't believe the story at all. I believe he had a lot of free time on it. He wrote a story. He wrote a memoir. Like, again,
right.
I think the problem is, Chaz, that we don't believe. We believe when it comes to certain things, Black folks believe it wholeheartedly. Mm-hmm. So anything involving slavery, racism, Black folks believe it. I'm like, dude, if they wanted to trick you, are they going to use race? Like, just think about it. If they know if we can tell you something about a certain subject and you're automatically going to believe it, they're going to use that subject. And so 12 Years a Slave, in the movie, he didn't get, I don't remember him getting drugged.
Right.
In the movie, they just took him. And again, why would these vicious, cruel white people have to do anything like that? Drug you for what?
Right.
Come here, boy, let's go. Like, they ain't got to do all that extra stuff, putting drugs in your drink and laughing with you. They ain't, come on, boy.
And then, I don't buy it. I don't know what y'all think in the chat, but I personally don't buy it. I mean, it might be some truth to it, but I mean, reading just the Wikipedia page alone, there's certain holes. But that's not what tonight's show is about. So let's move on.
Term of endearment. What up, my African American people, that is. Joining me now is Russell Simmons, founder of the news media site Global Grind, who argued, quote, "We were able to take a vicious racist term and make it a term of endearment. What up, my, that's a, my, you, my, or just simply my N-word. We took control of something that was used for so much hate and made it love."
It said that unless you have a direct bloodline to a slave, then you probably shouldn't use it. But I also talked about the genius in our community that took the pig feet and the chitlins, which was given to us, and turned it into a delicacy. I mean, it's the genius of Black people that we're celebrating.
Right.
And I think that this particular incident with Gwyneth is something that is innocent and it's behind us. I mean, I'm not here to talk about that. We talked earlier about me coming on the show, and we talked about the implications of our community using it. When is the first time you heard that word, Michael?
Oh, absolutely.
So,
and I told you it was
think,
with.
Do you think that it was genius to turn pig feet and chitlins into a delicacy? Was that a testament to Black folks' genius?
No, because chitlins came from England.
Bingo.
So again, most of what I just saw a clip,
and then too, that was he said that was what the slaves were given. No.
White folks ate that too.
Yeah, they ate it too. I mean, the Southern gentry still came from the element of England that ate stuff like that.
Yes.
Right. Of course, you had some of your Southern gentry who came from some of the upper classes of English society. But you had folks who came from the lower elements who were able to settle on plantations and own slaves that still had customs and traditions that were very much redneck in essence. And I use the term redneck because that's the term that that Thomas Sowell uses.
Yes.
But, for lack of a better word, and I'm not trying to use the term redneck derogatorily, but I'm just saying that, yes, that was part of the customs and traditions that white folks had, just because, I mean, not all white folks, but a certain element of white folks, because I don't know, to me, Blanche, it sounds like Russell Simmons is trying to say that Black folks invented chitlins.
Well, again, most of these entertainers don't know anything. You just assume they're intelligent because they're in front of a camera and people listen to them, but they're actually quite ignorant on most things.
Right.
Again, if you look around the world, pig intestines are eaten around the world. Like these things are eaten.
Asian culture.
Yes, yeah. Everybody. So it's not to any continent. It's just that the pig. Put it this way: the pig is the meat or the animal that everything on it is edible. Pretty much, like the pig is, they eat everything on the pig, and it's just that's around the world. And I remember in my backsliding days, when I used to eat pork, I love pork chops, I love bacon. So the savory, you know what I'm saying, I chewed on pig skins. I mean, the taste of pork is a.
Hey, so people who eat pork are backsliding. Is that what you're insinuating?
Well, I say back in my backsliding days, but back in my backsliding days, I was a pork fanatic. And so the pig meat.
You was a pork connoisseur?
Yes, I still taste to this day. I can still taste it. It's been years. So again, we know the meat holds flavor, a lot of flavor. So pork ribs, pork chops, obviously chitlins, pig ears, hog head cheese, pig feet, all that, So, but my point is that the actual chitterlings came from England. It did not come from Black slaves. It wasn't these white slave masters giving Black folks slop. Black folks sought out the chitlins. It was a delicacy, like it was seen as a delicacy. And you think about it now,
couldn't wait to get their hand on a bowl of chitlins.
Even today, Chad, look what chitlins are looked at as now. Oh, you got some chitlins? Like even now, it's like a delicacy. Restaurants do it.
Yeah, the chitlin man, he comes up with new ways to make chitlins.
Yeah.
And serve it to people.
Pho was my favorite.
He makes chitlin sandwiches, chitlin hot dogs, chitlin corn dogs, chitlin nachos, chitlin egg rolls, like
chitlin pizza. Yeah. chitlin quesadillas. Now, Chad.
Chitlin tacos, chicken and chitlin enchiladas.
Nachos. And Chad, keep in mind now, Chad, people buy his plates.
Yeah,
like he's not making them. Like people actually purchase that stuff. So
right. Somebody said I feel sick now.
Somebody said ham hocks and black eyed peas. Yeah, they put the neck bones in the cabbage and all that. Come on, man, we used to eat y'all. Don't act brand new.
Right. Yeah, the last time I ate a chitlin, I was 8 years old.
Oh, that must have scarred you.
Never again. My brothers and sisters love chitlins. They really do. My little sister, she's a year younger than me. She choked on a chitlin, and my grandma had to basically do the what's it called, the Heimlich.
Did it shoot out?
It shot out
a chitlin bullet.
Yeah, she shot out a chitlin bullet, and I wasn't there when it happened. I was actually in summer school, because I failed a class in like 3rd grade or something like that. So I didn't see it happen, but it's still like a ongoing story to this very day. So she's all, you know, because when you're choking, your eyes water. You're like, you know. So my grandma pumped that chitlin out of her throat, and my sister recovered, and then went right back to finish her bowl of chitlins. That's how
now
much.
You know, Chad. A black person will have a near-death experience with a food. As soon as they get brought back to life, they gonna finish their food. That ain't gonna stop the listen. That will not stop the consumption of the meal. Not near. They gotta actually die not to eat, not to finish.
Yep. And I think after she was done with the chitlins, she drank the bowl of juice the chitlin was in. Chitlin juice. Now, when you ate chitlins, did you put hot sauce and mustard on it, or hot sauce or mustard on your chitlins?
I didn't really get into chitlins because I couldn't get past the texture. The texture of the chitlin. Well, I mean the smell, but even past the smell, you know, just the texture.
Did you post a chitlin video on IG and they banned it, or was that YouTube?
YouTube banned it. Yeah.
Why did they ban it? Did they tell you why?
They said it went against their guidelines.
So you did a chitlin video and it went against the guidelines.
I think maybe because it's like cruelty to animals. I don't know. I don't know.
Interesting. That's funny because you can find videos on YouTube right now of people making chitlins and of people cleaning the chitlins, and
that's what I use.
Do you think when they clean the chitlins that they're actually really clean?
I mean, Chad, it's pig intestines. I mean, can you really get them clean? I mean, I've seen some people thoroughly clean them, but I mean, it's pig guts, and the pig guts been holding feces for years. I mean, it's all in the guts. Like you can clean the feces off the guts, but what's in the guts is still the stuff from the waste from the feces. So, and
pigs are very dirty animals.
Filthy. They eat anything. A pig will eat literally. You could throw a steak in there. You could throw another animal in there. The pig's gonna eat just the same.
Right.
Pastor who was talking about the members of his church, and we all, or just simply my N-word. We took control of something that was used for so much hate and made it love.
It said that unless you have a direct bloodline to a slave, then you probably shouldn't use it. But I also talked about the genius in our community that took the pig feet and the chitlins, which was given to us, and turned it into a delicacy. I mean, it's the genius of black people that we're celebrating.
Right.
And I think that this particular incident with Gwyneth is something that is innocent and it's behind us. I mean, I'm not here to talk about that. We talked earlier about me coming on the show, and we talked about the implications of our community using it. When was the first time you heard that word, Michael?
Oh, absolutely. And I told you it was with my pastor who was talking about the members of his church. And we all know that that word did not begin with hip hop. But here's the point, though, Russell, isn't it? Isn't this the point that rappers who have no sense of history.
What hip hop did do is take our culture, whether it was our fashion, was it our music, whatever, and put it into the mainstream.
Right. No
doubt. That reality is there.
I would suggest to all white people, here's a rule, an ironclad law that will help you at all points. Here's when you can never say the N-word. Never. Russell Simmons, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you. I agree with you there.
As if you have any authority over what people say or how people use their own mouth. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my goodness, man. Again, it's more about exerting some power over white people. It's not about because they're offended by the word being used. It's because they want to say that you as a white person can't do this. I hold this one thing over you. But white directors make y'all say it in movies, and they say it on set. White producers do the same thing. Like, you all are in films, you know, where they're telling you how to use the N-word. You know, like that one teacher was like, you know, it's not nigga, it's nigga. You know, I use nigga.
That was hilarious. Didn't the Boondocks do like a
yes?
Yeah. Then they do a skit off of that.
But even that teacher, right? He used the word in context because the student, and I know the student did, because Black people have a bad habit of calling everybody else a nigga, right, but not wanting them to call them back. And so the teacher said, "Don't call me nigga," and he's like, "Nigga," and then so the student said he didn't say it, but I know he's lying, man. You know,
right?
I know he's lying. You're
at a predominantly Black school, like I'm pretty sure that teacher heard that word at least 50 times in a given day.
And it's been called that.
Right.
You know, when Black people get upset, oftentimes whoever they're talking to is going to be called the N-word, regardless of race.
Right. So that was clip number 1. But before we get deep into, I guess, dissecting what Michael Eric Dyson was saying, you saw that he's trying to dictate how white people, what words white folks use and all this. And let's go to a more recent of it. So that clip was from 2013, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
But this one here is a more recent clip. Let me see if I can pull it up. Video files. Here we go. 2.
Have you work in the fields with us?
Work in the field.
That's part of that. That's
Senator. I'm a house nigga. For Black folks, that word, I don't care who you are,
right,
has caused pain. I'm not here to do that.
Right.
Now, the guy who was here, it's not his fault. I feel bad about him, the senator. It's all on me. But he said a weird thing. The comic mind goes to a weird place sometimes.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter that it wasn't said in malice. It wasn't. If it brought back pain to people.
Right. Well, but
then and that's why I apologize freely, and I reiterate it tonight.
One of the things you.
So, my first thoughts, listening to Bill Maher, is that he's being a coward. For one, he's being a huge coward, and not only is he being a coward, he's also in an underhanded way trying to throw Ben Sasse under the bus. Ben Sasse, the senator who he was interviewing in that little clip there. So just for context, Ben Sasse is one of the senators in Nebraska. If anybody knows Nebraska, they have a lot of cornfields there. They have a lot of fields there. And when Ben Sasse said, you know, maybe you can come work the fields with us, he's making a Nebraska comment. And the context, I mean, a 3-year-old can understand what he was saying. And Bill Maher said, "Oh, the fields, I'm a house nigga." It was a joke that he made. And the joke, I mean, Bill Maher, I don't think is very funny, but the joke was actually kind of funny. And rather than saying, "Look, it's a joke, stop, you know, getting all beside yourself," rather than doing that, he has Michael Eric Dyson on his show to scold him on how what he did was a very, very bad thing. And then he turned around and had Michael Eric Dyson come back along with Ice Cube. I forget what happened in that Ice Cube Michael Eric Dyson Bill Maher interview. I don't know what Ice Cube's take on it was. Maybe we can play it here in a moment. But yeah, he invites Michael Eric Dyson, a known race hustler, a known demonic activist, i.e. professor. He invites him on his show to scold him rather than owning, like, look, it was a joke. Like, if you want to be offended by it, that's a you problem. That's not a me problem. But yeah, I mean, what do you think about Bill Maher basically choosing to have Michael Eric Dyson on his show rather than just saying, look, it was a joke? If you think it was a joke in poor taste, that's on you. But I made a joke. That's what comedians do. What say you?
It's just a way to I don't know, you kind of make amends with, with black people, which is easy to do. Just bring somebody back on your show, let them give you a lecture, and then all is forgiven. I think, again, the joke that Bill Maher made was in context. The joke was, he said, we're going to work the fields. And he said, well, I'm a house nigga. Basically what he's saying is, I'm not going to be out there in the fields working. I'm going to be in the house. I'm not going to be out there with you working, which is a joke, But, I think black people deep down inside, they hold white people's opinions at such a high standard to where if a white person is even joking, black people can't take it as a joke. Like, you think about it, black people hold white people to the standard of perfection. So if a white person cussed them off in traffic, they call a white person racist. Not that the white person didn't see him, not that the white person might be a bad driver, but they're racist, meaning when a white person does something bad, they perceive to be bad, it's intentional. It can't be just them making a mistake. So because black folks hold white folks to that high of a standard, it's really no margin for error for white people. White people have to literally walk around and be perfect to not get, and when I say be perfect, I mean not do anything wrong, and also, succumb to the pleas and whims of the black grievance.
Right.
But it's just Bill Maher's way of getting back, his liberal audience and his black audience. I'm gonna let Michael Eric Dyson come over here, give us a history lesson, browbeat me, and then, all is forgiven. But again, and then once Michael Eric Dyson leaves your show, he's gonna go and use the N-word with you backstage anyway. Like, y'all gonna like when the camera's cut off and you're backstage, y'all gonna use the N-word again anyways, because it's all a show for the public. So
right. Right. Okay, let's see.
Did last week was an unconscious reflex. Nobody was a
folks. That word. I don't care who you.
We'd love to have you work in the fields with us.
Work in the field.
That's part of that. That's
Senator. I'm a house nigga. For black folks, that word, I don't care who you are, has caused pain. I'm not here to do that.
Right.
Now, the guy who was here, it's not his fault. I feel bad about him, the senator. It's all on me. But he said a weird thing. The comic mind goes to a weird place sometimes.
Okay, so again, he underhandedly threw Ben Sass under the bus. Granted, he did say, and I'm going to tell you all how this thing works. Granted, he did say it's not his fault, it's all on me. But then he does this double-minded thing where he says he said a weird thing, and the comic mind goes where the comic mind goes. And so then I responded in like fashion. Ben Sass didn't say a weird thing. Again, he said something that is contextual to Nebraska, which has a lot of fields.
Right.
Ben Sass wasn't thinking about slavery. Ben Sass wasn't thinking about field slaves. He was saying, like, yeah, maybe you should come. And that clip, the reason why I started it where I did is because that's where they started it. They refused to put in the context of, because, leading up to that moment, Bill Maher said, I need to come down to Nebraska to visit you all. To which Ben Sass said, yeah, maybe you can work the fields with us. And he's talking about an upcoming election, knocking doors, campaigning, things of this nature. So he says, maybe you can work the fields with us. Talking about campaigning. So he didn't say a weird thing. He said something that's contextual to what Bill Maher said and contextual to Nebraska. So he didn't say a weird thing. So you're trying to throw Ben Sass under the bus and saying, look, Ben Sass triggered me to do X, Y, and Z. Again, what you did, it's not wrong unless you do what you're doing right now in terms of bringing all these black intellectuals onto your show to scold you, to tell you what you did wrong and why what you did was wrong, why there's so much trauma, X, Y, and Z attached to it. It's weird because you're making it weird. If you genuinely believe that people should be adults and stop getting all contorted and bent out of shape over a word, then take, then double down and say, look, if you think that I was being racist and saying that word, then you're a fool. That's just is what it is, point blank, period. I'm going to stand by it. And someone like Bill Maher, I mean, if that means him getting kicked off of HBO and not having a show anymore, he's Bill Maher. He can do the same thing that that Tucker Carlson did, the same thing that Chris Cuomo did, the same thing that Don Lemon did, i.e., go independent, and you're still going to have an audience because people like you. I don't personally care for Bill Maher, but the fact is he does have a fan base for what it's worth. And so you can thrive and survive without HBO. But the fact that you're capitulating, the fact that you are bending the knee to these black race hustlers is pathetic. It's very pathetic. So anyway, but it is kind of ironic too. Someone like a Bill Maher who has spent the bulk of his career claiming that he's an ally to the blacks and to the downtrodden and this, that, and the third. I guess speaking of context, for him to say what he said, knowing full well how emotional and how feminine or effeminate a lot of these black men are, it is kind of a bold thing for him to make that joke. I mean, I think the joke was harmless. You know, that's me saying that, but it is weird for him to make the joke knowing just how emotional these black activists are. What do you think, Blanche?
But again, and so for Bill Maher to say it on a show, you know, he says it in private.
Right. And
he says it around black people.
Right. And
they gave him a pass. And so again, black people are very hypocritical when it comes to who can use the N-word. Tanya on IG said, if a word is traumatizing to you, then it's traumatizing no matter who uses it. So that means you would be traumatized if Bill Maher said it or somebody black said it, you would be traumatized either way. So the fact that black folks can have selective trauma lets you know that it's really cap. Again, people just don't like white people getting out of. So I'm gonna say this. Believe it or not, and this may sound strange to a lot of you all, white people have to walk a very regimented line in society. Meaning that a white person can't just say what they want to say and do what they want to do without consequence. So most white people know what they can't talk about, what they can talk about, what they can do and what they can't do, just based on the social pressures. So, you know, anytime a white person gets out of those lines, in other words, anytime a white person says, I don't care if another group of people gets offended, then that white person becomes a target. And so Bill Maher's I'm a house nigga comment is a I don't care if I offend somebody moment. Okay, so now you have to get chastised. There's no moment that black people experience where they can't get out of line. There's nothing that black folks do or say that someone says they can't do or say. There's no bounds, there's no guys or anything. And so black folks get offended at the audacity of a white person knowing these rules and still saying, well, I'm still gonna say the word anyway. Like that kind of boldness. That's why they're so upset with Trump, because Trump doesn't make any apologies. I'm not apologizing. I'm going to say what I'm going to say. And to me, most of the hate towards Trump isn't actually him being racist. It's just him being audacious. It's just him being bold. It's just him being a white man that doesn't care. Like the white person that doesn't care is what black folks are afraid of, because they know that white person is not going to give them any passes. They're not going to, they're not going to bend the knee to them. They're not going to feel sorry for them. They're going to expect them to do like everybody else is doing, bootstrap policy and all that kind of stuff. So again, that's the issue with Bill Maher. Bill Maher, they feel like he's too big. He's feeling too comfortable. He dates black women. He got black friends. He's invited in all the black circles. So Bill Maher living his best life. So him saying the N-word is like, you icing on the cake and you smashing the cake in my face. So he had to be taken back a peg or two.
Yeah. But it doesn't matter that it wasn't said in malice. If it brought back pain to people.
Right. Well,
and that's why I apologize freely, and I reiterate it tonight.
One of the things you did last week was an unconscious reflex. Nobody was ascribed to you any malicious intent, but that's the point, right? That it grows out of a culture that reflexively identifies that particular word with some heinous acts in history, and so they think it's a matter of privilege that it doesn't happen. Let me read you something that my son, a well-known authority on this, this is what he texted me. He said, I know white boys like that who get a pass, who earn a pass from the work they put in, but the coolest and most honorable white boys are the ones that choose not to act on that pass because they understand the history, pain, and insensitivity behind the use of the N-word. So
basically what you just said, Blanche. Basically what you just said. Do you care to expound?
Again, so now you see that black people, by his son's admission, who's the expert, states that black people give a pass for the N-word if it's earned. So there's a standard a white person can meet to be able to say the N-word. And I imagine it involves a lot of groveling and pandering and probably some monetary contributions to be able to say the N-word around black people. And so then he says, but the most honorable white people get the pass, but don't use it. So it's almost like black, again, this goes back to the deity of white people. This goes back to the perfection of white people. So the honorable white people will take the pass and won't use it. Again, you're putting white people on a standard of perfection. The same pass, if given to black people, they're going to use without the pass. Black folks going to skip class without the hall pass. So it don't matter with them. But when it comes to white people, look at the expectation. The white person is expected to do what no other group is doing on the planet, which is literally having a pass and not using it, staying in line, never offending, never getting out of, never cutting anybody off in traffic, never not filling the pot up back with coffee at work, never doing anything wrong. That is the standard of whiteness. And so when it came to Bill Maher, again, he took his pass and said it in public. Because I'm pretty sure he's used this often and used it to this day. He used the N-word. Michael Eric Dyson even admitted that his pastor, the first person he heard use the N-word, which was his pastor, which I know is a lie because he grew up in Detroit, so he heard it everywhere. But he said the first person that he heard use the N-word was his pastor. So his pastor called some folks in the church some niggas. So that means even the pastor knew a distinction between my good members in the congregation, my ones that pay the offerings and their tithes, and I guarantee the niggas was the one that didn't pay tithes. So we all know the separation was the money with the pastor. That's all. It's just the ends don't pay, the decent black folks pay. That's it. But I say all that to say
even Pastor Manning said you niggas is crazy.
Right. Listen, again, Pastor Manning knows the difference between these group of black folks and these other ones. Even Chris Rock became Chris Rock's most famous stand-up joke is, I love black folks, but I hate niggas.
Right. And again, I have to reiterate this. I know I beat this dead horse, but I'm going to continue plundering it. This whole concept of interracial, and I don't know if I'm using that term correctly, but within the context of a certain ethnic group, referring to a certain element as what can be construed as a derogatory slang word is not unique to black folks. I hear wealthy white folks referring to lower class or lower income white folks as white trash all the time.
Yes.
Or and again in rural America, in rural white America, referring to certain white folks as peckerwoods. This is something that goes on in other ethnic groups, but the fact is, that's done within a certain context. Black folks have basically publicized this word, this nigga word, and use it in their slang, use it in their music, use it in their shows, so on and so forth. And so in so doing, you kind of give the impression to other folks that it's okay for y'all to use this word too, to refer to us. And so you do that, and then in the same breath, you get upset when people actually take you up on that invitation, because that is in fact what it is it's an invitation. And for me, I don't care. Like I genuinely don't care. I know I'm not a nigga. And so if somebody uses that word, I don't. It doesn't. It doesn't. When when a white person uses the word nigga, or when a Hispanic person uses the word nigga, it doesn't cause images of slaves to flash in my mind.
Right.
Images of whites only drinking fountains to flash in my mind. I'm sorry, but it don't. For me, it's just another day. Of course, I don't hear white people on a daily basis using that term, but to the extent that I do, it's typically the white man with a wife beater and a wave cap who probably grew up around black folks. And he's using that word not to slander anyone, not to put anyone down, but rather because it's a word that he's used to using amongst his circle of friends. And yes, I do see some white folks using that word online. I know on Twitter, you can say that word and not be banned or not be, not have your page taken away from you. And so sometimes you see whether it be bots or people with no, with their icon image being like a cartoon or not being an image at all, using the word because they're trying to, they know that it's going to cause black people to get all bent out of shape. But even to that extent, I don't feel any type of way about it because I understand what they're trying to do. They see all these black people on Twitter being super emotional, or I should say X being super emotional. And so they're trying to like poke that hornet's nest and get them all the more riled up and get a laugh out of it. And the thing is, like, I don't really blame, I mean, y'all can call me all kind of coons and Uncle Toms for saying this. I don't really blame that person for using that word to cause a reaction as much as I do the individual who's reacting, if that makes sense. So
yes. And somebody mentioned in the comments, AG said that the term in the N-word comes with a threat of violence. I would venture to say that more. I would venture to say.
Who said that? Was this on Twitter? Or, I'm sorry, on IG
right
or
no, this is on YouTube.
AG.
AG front. I would venture to say that more black people have heard the word nigga and died than black people have heard the word nigger and died. There have been more black people killed by black people than there have been black people killed by white people anytime during slavery. Any lynchings, so that number isn't even comparable. Now, think about how many times a black person has died and the last thing they heard was nigger versus how many black folks died and the last word they heard was nigger. So you can't even say that that one word comes with a threat of violence because in the black community, the N-word comes with a threat of violence for sure. Nowadays, most times somebody uses the N-word is not black, they're using it amongst their own people. Asians using it with Asians, Hispanic using it with Hispanics, and even whites using it with whites. But now we know that you can be around a bunch of black people, and if you say nigga the wrong way, somebody's liable to die. So the threat of death and violence for sure in 2024 is coming from black people with that word.
Right. Right, 100%. Historic is a threat of violence behind that word. No. I mean, if someone says, "Look here, nigga," or "Look here, nigger," it's like, okay. I mean, even James Cone in his little book, My Soul Looks Back, said that his dad in Bearden, Arkansas, would often confront white people and call them peckerwoods and call them crackers and this and the third. And black folks were a minority in Bearden, Arkansas. It was a predominantly white area that James Cone grew up in during the Jim Crow era here in the United States. And he was so bold as to call white folks outside their name. So it wasn't, so would you say that James Cone, a black man who had a black father, calling a white man in 1940s Arkansas, a peckerwood is a threat, comes with a threat of violence. Of course, he wasn't strung up. Of course, he wasn't chased out of town with shotguns and dogs and hounds and things of this nature. and so, you know, the fact is, there were many such black men in the South who weren't afraid to give white folks the business in terms of saying things, in terms of calling them outside their names, in the same way that white men did the same thing to black folks. And so, again, this notion that black men were minding their business and they were on their way to church and they had on some sophisticated clothing, and a white man came out of nowhere, just jumped out of the woods and called him a nigger, called him a boy, and demeaned and degraded the black man, and the black man had nothing else to do but to say yassa and keep it moving. It's cap. It's Hollywood. It's false. Like Michael Jackson said, they made it up. It's not real.
It's a lie.
It's a lie. They made it up. They're lying. I don't know, Blanche. It's the fact that black folks feel as though they have a monopoly on struggle and monopoly on being victimized. It's weak. It's pathetic. It's weird. It's strange. It's an excuse. Quite frankly, it's an excuse to not try. It's an excuse to not be a man. Because a white man's going to call me a boy. A white man's going to call me a nigger. He's going to hurt my feelings. It's strange. It's very strange. But again, my point in saying that, Blanche, is there were black men, and this is on the record, this is well documented, in fact, that black men in the South weren't these timid little, you know, church mice who were pushed around and demeaned on a daily basis by white men. That, I mean, it's just not true, because in many cases, if a white man got into a black man's face, he in turn got in his face. And this notion that the black woman had to stand up for her husband because white men wouldn't hurt black women, it's mythology. It's just false. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? First
of all, I've never seen an older black person afraid of white people ever in my life. Like, I've never seen that in my life. The fact that black people were willing to migrate across a white nation means they couldn't have been afraid. So this fear factor that black folks supposedly had of white people couldn't have dissipated from the end of slavery to 1950s and 60s. That's not how that works. You know, we're talking about, y'all say it's 400 years of slavery, right? You don't erase that in 100 years. And so it doesn't make any sense for me to believe that black folks could have made this much progress even up until the 1960s. And they were just walking around with their head down, timid and afraid of white people. It's not how that works. I never in my life seen anybody from my grandparents' generation, even my mother's generation, afraid of white people. I never even seen it. I've never seen nothing that close to it. So for me to believe that these black folks, these millions of black folks were just walking around being terrorized by white people, I don't buy it. I just don't. I remember there was a lady, and she was giving her her account of the Tulsa riots, and she said the white men bust in the house, and she was cooking food for her children, and so the white men were like standing there, and she was like, and they was like, "You're not afraid?" She's like, "No." She said she just kept cooking. So they looked at the piano and they like chopped the piano up. She said they chopped the piano up and then left. I was like, what? And then she said she didn't stop. And then she said they were so dumb they didn't realize that the guts of the piano were on the inside and didn't get damaged. So she was talking about how dumb they were. But her point was she wasn't afraid. They didn't do anything to her. This was a person that, quote unquote, supposedly was in the Tulsa riot. So again, for this black woman to be in the house by herself with her children, white man busts in and she keeps on cooking, lets you know that she didn't see white people as a threat. Now, I bring that up to say black people weren't just walking around getting their head knocked off. It just wasn't the case. It just this sells a movie. If you see black folks standing up against white people, you don't have a film. The film only works if black people are saying we shall overcome, you know, get hit in the back as they sing in the song. That's what you want to watch it. No one wants to see the, okay, prime example. The film where the white man married a black woman didn't do well.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't do well. 12 Years a Slave did well. You know what I'm saying? Amistad did. The movies where it's the slave and white master, they do well. Anytime it's black kind of leveled out with white, they don't do well. So again,
right.
You know, our taste buds have been conditioned to actually want to see that white dominance. Even you'll hear of even prostitutes talking about how black men would want them to call them, you know, the N-word and treat them like they're the master and he's the slave. This is like a fetish and role play that black men even. So again, a lot of this stuff is on the surface and is capped. When we really get down to it, Chad, none of us were around during slavery. So the only affinity we have for slavery is from movies. Because black folks don't read. So they didn't get it from a book. They got it from a movie, a TV show, i.e. Roots or Queen, and they got it from a movie. You know, right. I don't know some slavery movies out there, but Glory, Amistad, 12 Years a Slave, Rosewood. I'm probably missing some, but yeah. So there's a lot of his character.
And Oprah was behind a lot of these movies, by the way.
Yeah, Beloved.
Yeah,
The Color Purple. A lot of these films were filled with propaganda.
Yeah. And by the way, you mentioned Plessy versus Ferguson. No, it wasn't Plessy versus Ferguson. It was Loving.
In Virginia, right? It was in Virginia, right?
Yeah, Loving v. Virginia, I think it was the court case that basically challenged the constitutionality of anti-miscegenation laws. And yes, there were certain states and counties that had anti-miscegenation laws, which means that, you know, white men couldn't marry black women and vice versa. Black men couldn't marry white women. But these laws, even though they existed in some contexts, were not really enforced. They were not really implemented.
Right.
I mean, if you look at George Schuyler, who married his wife, I forget her name, married a white woman. He was one of, you know, I guess the most popular individuals who married a white woman. He later became a conservative, not because of his wife's influence, but rather because he was well immersed in race politics and this kind of activism, as it were, as a journalist, and seeing through it, seeing it for what it really was, decided to depart from it, and he became a conservative because of what he's seen with his own eyes. And the only reason I bring that up is because a lot of folks believe that if you're a black man and you marry a white woman, it's because of her influence that you become a conservative. That's not the case at all. And you'll notice that they never have anything to say about black men who are liberal who marry white liberal women. They never have anything to say about that. But let a black man like Clarence Thomas or Larry Elder or whomever marry a white woman, or Brandon Tatum, now all of a sudden, oh, you're only a conservative because you're trying to please your white wife. Okay, why don't you say that about black liberals who marry white women? I digress. But yes, these anti-miscegenation laws were not heavily enforced. They were only enforced in very obscure circumstances, because for the most part, nobody really cared genuinely whether a black man married a white woman, or a white man married a black woman, or so on and so forth. But again, it was rarely enforced, but yet and still they try to look at that and say, see, they didn't even want blacks and whites race mixing. And there was actually justified reason for that. I'm not going to get heavy into that. Maybe that's another show. But there was justified and merited reasons for some of these laws that came into place, namely the fact that there was, like, when you look at separation, when you look at the fact that blacks decided to separate themselves from whites and That being, I guess, the kind of inception of what we know as Jim Crow laws. Black leaders and white leaders coming together and saying, look, we need to have some kind of separation ordinances in order to give Black folks the best possible incubator for progress and for development and success, and to keep tensions down, especially after the Civil War, because the Civil War was a very bloody war. Lots of men died, and it was bitter. And as a result of this, when you have civil war, and of course we have the luxury here in 21st century America of never having experienced a bloody civil war. But if you have a civil war, in the aftermath of that war, there's going to be tensions. There's going to be friction. It just is what it is. And in an effort to try to build back in such a way that tensions are low, you necessarily had these separation laws put into place to allow for white Southerners to progress within the context of their own culture, and Black folks to progress in the context of their own culture. It makes sense. Of course, hindsight, post-civil rights movement, it doesn't make sense because y'all didn't experience a civil war. I mean, can we be adults for a moment? Yes, there's going to be bitterness. There's going to be friction after you watch your uncle die, after you watch your father die in this bloody civil war. There's going to be friction. And so in an effort, I mean, these men operated with some degree of wisdom and saying, look, let's have these separation laws put into place. And these separation laws were implemented by what was called interracial commissions that were not set into motion by the government, but was rather set into motion within the private sector. Black businessmen and pastors and so on coming together with white businessmen and pastors and saying, look, if our people are going to succeed, let's separate from you all to keep tensions down, to keep tensions low. It wasn't this, I mean, in some contexts it was, but in a lot of contexts it was genuine. It wasn't meant to, like, y'all niggers stay over there, us white folks are going to stay over here. Like, it was that way in some contexts, but in a lot of them, it was merely a way to progress. And you can see this embodied, and you can see what I'm saying encapsulated in Booker T. Washington's speech that he gave. It was called the Atlanta Exposition. I forget what year he delivered this speech, but the Crisis, which was ran by W.E.B. Du Bois, it was an NAACP newspaper. They coined the term the Atlanta Compromise. So they were trying to frame Booker T. Washington as willing to compromise to the white man, willing to play second fiddle to the white man, willing to subordinate himself to the white man. When the reality of it is, no, we need to give our people the best context to succeed and progress. And white folks, y'all need to progress. And ultimately, gradually, we can begin to ease and break down these racial tensions and come together in a gradual way when the time is right. That was the purpose of it. It wasn't y'all niggers, y'all need to da-da-da-da. No, it was meant for everybody to succeed in the best way possible in the aftermath of the Civil War. And it was working. I mean, when you look at Black progress in terms of business ownership, in terms of education, in terms of literacy, in terms of marriage and family formation, it was on a steady incline, and in some cases a rapid incline as a result of being able to do your own thing without the hostilities and tensions of race friction. And so that was where some of these anti-miscegenation laws came from in terms of race mixing through marriage. And so I understand that because I'm mature enough and adult enough to understand that. But again, people miss context. They never experienced a civil war where you watch your fathers and brothers and uncles die. They never experienced that. So it's easy for us to say, oh no, it's terrible that Blacks weren't allowed to marry whites. But even insofar that Blacks were marrying whites, it wasn't really, enforced. You had white ministers in many cases who were not communists marrying, officiating the weddings between Blacks and whites because they understood it to be a case-by-case thing. Anyway, Blanche, why do you think that's so hard for people to understand or to wrap their minds around?
Because so the most deadliest war in history was the Civil War. Some estimate 1 million deaths. Some say 620,000 plus, but for the most part, the Civil War had more deaths than all the wars we've had in the world combined. So it lets you know, to what Chad is saying, the gravity of how that rocks a nation, because that happened on American soil. So imagine you have the most deadliest and bloody war of all time on your soil, and at the forefront of it is Black people, quote unquote, Black slaves, free Blacks, and white people, country being separated. Lincoln wanted to preserve the Union. It's just all of these dynamics. And so it makes sense that when it's all over, to try to keep some kind of peace. If you don't believe what Chad is saying, just go to a country that had a war on their soil and tell me how the society is after that. Tell me how peaceful the society is once the war ends in other countries. Tell me what happens afterwards. Tell me if the people are sitting there skipping down the street holding hands. No. It's a lot of tension, a lot more deaths, a lot of fights. It usually has to be a separation of the people, honestly. So America did pretty good with having the bloodiest war on their soil, and then we're still able to be, you know, very respectful to each other and even intermingling with each other. But what you see, because it works so well, you have a whole machine behind dividing the people. Someone mentioned that there are historical accounts of what happened between whites and Blacks, but at the end of the day, you can look at history from 2020 to 2024 and see they've tried to change stuff in modern times. So it's not far-fetched to see history change, especially from hundreds of years ago. They're doing it now. You can't even find certain Google articles on Google right now. Like, they're taking stuff from the internet. So again, them changing history and altering history isn't anything new, and it's very possible. So to me, we have to use wisdom and discernment and understand that the country went through something that no other country went through. This country had the bloodiest war in history. So you can't even imagine even the propaganda behind the war on both sides, even why they were getting someone to fight from the South, why they were getting someone to fight from the North, and you thinking that your dad died because of these quote unquote niggers, or you're thinking that your dad died quote unquote from these peckerwoods. So again, it's a lot of tension, it's a lot of animosity, it's a lot of hate, it's a lot of pain, a lot of anger. So it makes sense. But the media, the libtards, the communists, they come in after the fact and they tell you, oh no, it went like this. No, it didn't go like that. You never even experienced. Can you imagine tomorrow if there's a war on American soil, and let's say we survive it, let's say we win, let's say we get invaded and we win, the country will never be the same. If we get invaded tomorrow and let's say we win the war, whether we win or lose, the country would never be the same, ever. So again, just understand that this experiment called America, for the most part, has worked. How do we know this? Because in the past 3 years, 18 to 20 million people have flooded these borders after the media has been saying it's the most racist country in the world. Folks are still saying we don't care, we want it. So again, what Chad is saying makes 100% sense.
Do you truly understand the need to name and to challenge that unconscious white privilege that exists and how it hurts Black people, even if unintentionally?
Yeah, but of course I think I do. I mean, we're all evolving. We're all who we are.
Right.
By the way, this happened once.
Right.
A guy said a weird thing. Right. I made a bad joke.
Right.
Yes, it was wrong, and I own up to that.
Right.
But, I mean, it's not like I've made a career of this.
Right, right.
You know, it's not like I went out there last Friday and said, oh, I'm going to break some new ground tonight.
Right, right, right.
You know, it happened and it was wrong, and people make mistakes. We're all sinners, and we got to, yeah. So, but I totally get that. Look, I mean, we are all evolving at the pace of day by day. I grew up in an all-white town in New Jersey, not Alabama.
Right.
That's the country. I was born in 1956. Yeah. I grew up in New Jersey in the 50s and 60s, and race wasn't even an issue. It didn't exist.
Right.
We were.
What do you think about what he just said?
I think he's telling the truth. Again, I think he was able to So I believe that he saw in New Jersey probably a lot more race mixing. And he probably hung out, he had black friends. It's kind of like, again, the media has shaped what people think America was like during that time period. You just assume that black people were segregated into these small ghettos and shacks, and then white people lived on top of the hill in the beautiful homes. But what he's saying is basically, I was able to date black women, and I was able to go to the cool spots. I was able to hang out with the jive turkeys. I was able to have fun. So yeah, I think he was able to enjoy himself. You know, I honestly think that they weren't really thinking about race, like he said in 1956. Now, by the time he was 10 years old, 1966, he was 10. So what is he really experiencing at 10 years old? But, you know, Jamal and you know, Timmy want to play. That's just the kids being kids. By the time he was 20, guess what? It's 1976. And we know in 1976, there was a lot of partying going on between white and black, a lot of drug use, a lot of partying. So that racial divide, he's right. He probably didn't even really get to see it because he was too young when it was quote unquote supposed to be happening. And by the time he became an adult, it was drugs, sex, and rock and roll by that time, in disco. So yeah, I believe him. Yeah, they weren't thinking about race.
Yeah, I believe him too. I mean, the thing is, like, I don't know if I shared with you that clip of them trying to build the Kawaina Towers.
The Kawaina, where's that?
Did I share that with you?
No, where is that?
So Kawaina Towers were some housing. You'll remember if I explain it to you. So there were these housing projects that they were trying to build in New Jersey, in Newark, New Jersey. And they were called the Kawaina Towers. And I think one of the front men was Arami Baraka, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And basically they were building it near a town or some neighborhoods who understood that these housing projects will bring along a certain element that will bring down property value, that will bring on violence and crime and things of this nature, theft. So they were protesting, the whites and blacks who lived in that town originally. They were protesting the building of these housing projects. And Amari Baraka, if that is the person that I'm referring to, if that I'm thinking of, was trying to make out these people as being racists. And one of the individuals, I forget his name, a white guy, an Italian white guy, said, "Look, I've lived with black and white all my life. We've never had any problems. We've always got along. But this guy Jones," and I think that's Amari Baraka's original, his real last name, because he changed his own name. This guy Jones, he's up to something very sinister, and people are afraid of what he brings. Like, it's something dangerous, it's something anti-American, and we don't want it around us. So I'm going to try to see if I can't pull up that clip. Kawaina Towers. Am I saying that right? Somebody in the comment section might know. Let's see here. History. Let's see. Towers. Special report, Newark housing projects, the Black Journal. Okay, this is it.
Among Newark blacks as to whether the intent was urban renewal or black removal. Although there were no previous barriers, the present freeze on housing funds.
I mean, he can get them, I mean, they're capitalists, you see, and we don't. So organizations are always talking.
So these are the blacks who are protesting in favor of the building of the housing projects. this Baraka man was able to get all these black folks out to insist that these housing projects get built. So this is the folks that you're seeing up here singing and protesting and dancing and chucking and jiving.
All I got to say for you is, Leroy Jones in your mouth. Leroy's number a pygmy. Yeah. Racist swab. There's other little degenerate monkeys.
Most of the land in the Central Ward is tied up in urban renewal, and this land was available, so we got it. So we felt that since, you know, nationalist organizations are always talking about the need to transform the community, and the people identify, I think, nationalists and Pan-Africanists more with rhetoric than, you know, concrete delivery of goods and services, we wanted to demonstrate that our concerns were the same as the general community's concerns. That is, better housing, schools, you know, the same things that the average brother or sister understands as being necessary, you know, to transform our condition. Those are the things that we're trying to deliver, you see. But when we try, we obstruct it, you see. People tell us that we're not constructive, and then we try to be constructive, and then that's obstructive. We disagree.
No. You're
Right.
not being constructive.
Right.
Like, you're not being constructive. When people are constructive, they're constructive with their own dollars,
Right.
money that they have earned themselves by working hard, by making sacrifices, and then they earn enough money to build a house or to buy a house, and that's how they're constructive. You're not being constructive. You're being constructive with other people's money. You're being constructive with with tax dollars by getting the government involved to build a housing project. You're not being constructive.
Right.
A pygmy. Yeah.
And the people identify, I think, nationalists and Pan-Africanists more with rhetoric than, you know, concrete delivery of goods and services. We wanted to demonstrate that our concerns were the same as the general community's concerns. That is, better housing, schools, you know, the same things that the average brother or sister understands as being necessary, you know, to transform our condition. Those are the things that we're trying to deliver, you see. But when we try, we obstruct it, you see. People tell us that we're not constructive, and then we try to be constructive, and then that's obstructive. We disagree with the philosophy of most of the builders of buildings all over this town. I mean, they're capitalists, you see, and we don't agree with that, you know, but we don't try to stop them from building. So,
how do you see the stand of the opposing side? Do you think they have a valid argument?
Well, the argument is based on Anthony Imperiale's need for, you know, political notoriety. That's basically it. As far as them having a valid, you know, concept, I mean, it's just racist. I mean, he can get them, you know, like quasi-emotional, you know, on the racist issue.
Some whites hid from our cameras.
About separatism.
Anthony Imperiale, head of a North Newark citizens group, was one of few whites who consented to be interviewed by Black Journal.
We don't need it. The city of Newark was built a long time ago on black and white, and many people living together. I lived with black all my life, but not this kind of black like Jones, who desecrates the image of God and desecrates a man because it's not within his thinking. And I don't think that we should subject our children or anyone to it. It's just that this man represents something that other than American. And the people are afraid of it. They have a right to be afraid of it because it is a very dangerous enemy.
Again,
this man is trying to build something. He represents something that's un-American. I mean, and the guy said himself, Amamu Baraka, that he's against capitalism. He's against basically the American way, and he's trying to be productive with other people's tax dollars in this socialist way, in this communist way. And Anthony Imperiale, I think is his name, is right in saying that he represents something un-American, and we don't want anything to do with him because he, you know, people are afraid of the element that would come as a result of the building of these housing projects. Blanche, what say you?
Yeah, and if you think about it, you're making the white population take a hard stance. Because if we say, okay, we don't want it, you all say we want it. They say, well, it's going to cost us for you to have it, so we don't want it. Then they say, well, you're racist. So it's almost like you said, build your own. My issue is, well, if y'all are so pro-black, then just build your own building. Like if the white people don't want you to set up a building right here, then just build your own building. The fact that Imamu Baraka is on television calling out white people, and I'm assuming that's the 70s. What is that?
Yeah, it's the early 70s.
Early 70s lets you know America couldn't be racist. You even have white people hiding their faces. Why would white folks be hiding their faces for some black folks who are radical and pro-black? Like, why would they need to hide their faces? They need to hide their faces because they don't want the media to portray them as racist. Again, it was going on back then. So this guy, the guy that the imperial guy, what he said is spot on. These people are anti-American, period. And they are. He just said we're anti-capitalism, we're anti the white establishment, they're anti-American, period. They don't want things done the American way. And so why would I want y'all to have your whole building to set up shop? It doesn't make any sense. Like, it's crazy. So I agree. I agree with him. And the guy just giving this blanket statement of they're just racist because he's able to get them emotional, as if all them black folks ain't emotional, beating them drums and singing in Swahili. That ain't emotional. Stop. It's crazy. Somebody said, why did they fold? Listen, they folded because of pressure from the media. Yeah. Y'all don't understand, man. The media can make you a hero or a villain overnight. Like, they keep showing the same thing over and over. They take a clip of what you said, like him saying they're anti-American. You play that clip over and over. You put it on the front page of the newspaper. You put it on the front page. Pretty soon, he's working for the KKK.
Let's see. It says right here, Amari Baraka. Let me see if I can't blow this up some.
He changed his name because that dude was Imamu.
Yeah. Amari Baraka, a writer and militant activist, became the chief spokesperson for the ideology in the late 60s and was key to its popularization. Baraka believed that Kawaida Towers could be used to politicize the black masses, and he supported the creation of community theaters and schools that focus on African cultural values. In the late 60s, he became head of the Temple of Kawaida in Newark, New Jersey, which taught African religions and played a key role in the creation of Kawaida Towers, a lowland middle-income housing project in Newark. During the early 70s, Baraka sought to bridge the gaps between culture, politics, and economics, and by 74, he had reinterpreted Kawaida to including a socialist critique of capitalism. Kawaida's influence in Black America continued to grow, and the ideology provided a basis for the development of the theories of African centricity. In the late 70s and 80s, in the late 80s, the National Association of Kawaida Organizations, NACO, was founded under Karajina's direction. NACO sponsors workshops, forums, and symposia to promote awareness of an appreciation for Africa and the Black community. The most influential expression of Kawaida is Kwanzaa, an African American holiday based on the Nguzo Saba, which Karenga created in 1966. So basically, I mean, long story short, these towers, this housing project was built. You know, they did go on to build it. They ended up getting their way and building these housing projects, but those housing projects don't exist today. They're torn down, which tells me everything I need to know.
Well, the irony of the projects going up, and what happened in the projects. It was high crime. It was low education. It was high STD rates. Like, we know what the projects ended up being. Imagine these Black people fighting to have the government build something with taxpayer dollars just for them to get in there and become savages and heathens. Like, it's just, it's crazy. I think they tried to rebuild it. I'm looking at an article. It said hold on. They tried to rebuild it. Mayor Ras Baraka announces plans for.
You want to share the screen?
Yeah, I can share it. I can share it. This says, Mayor Ras Baraka announces plans for construction of Kawita Towers, which will be the first 100% affordable housing development in downtown Newark, New Jersey, March 17th, 2021. There were no demonstrations on Wednesday outside of what will soon become the new Kawita Towers in Newark, like there were in the 1970s when white picketers clashed with black protesters. The original Kawita Tower was envisioned by the late poet and activist Amiri Baraka for the city's North Ward, which was heavily populated at the time with Italian Americans. It was slated to be a low-income housing, but the project stoked racial division in a city still recovering from the 1967 riots. Almost 50 years later, Amiri Baraka's son, now mayor, stood on Hazley Street, where all Black Lives Matter was painted on the roadway this summer, to announce a new project in a different part of the city with the same namesake. It will consist of 66 units, and all of them will be affordable housing. So I don't know if that actually got built. I can look, but.
And mind you, Kamala Harris wants to build more of these around the country. I know it's not standing today.
No, it's not. It's not.
The last I've heard, I mean, the original Kawita Towers that they would go on to build in the early 70s was torn down. I forget what the circumstances were that caused them to tear down, but I would venture to say that it was poor management. I mean, it's government subsidized housing. It brings along a certain element of people who don't take care of what they have, who don't have any value in property ownership, so on and so forth. And so, and two, I'm pretty sure I would venture to say also that after the building of these projects, inevitably crime followed, violence followed, prostitution followed, everything else that goes hand in hand with housing projects. And so naturally they get torn down. And now they're trying to build them again in 2021. Crazy. And I don't know if they would go on to build it between 2021 and now.
No, because they're being sued, Chad.
Okay.
The city of Newark is being sued by developers. According to court papers, upon information and belief, the revised project is a resurrection of Kawita Towers, a low and medium income housing project that was first introduced in the early 1970s by Mayor Baraka's late father, Amiri Baraka, and has been 50 years in the making. Upon information and belief, the original Kawita Towers project was slated to be built as a 16-story building on Lincoln Avenue in North Ward of Newark, but it was never completed due to protests, protracted litigation, and political pushback. Decades later, Mayor Baraka seeks to finally bring his father's dream back to life, regardless of the cost to cities and its residents.
Okay, so I was under the impression that they did end up building the projects. I know they built a housing project in Newark, New Jersey. I don't know if we have any New Jerseyans in the chat tonight. Maybe y'all can tell me. I've only been to New Jersey twice in my lifetime. So I don't know. I mean, if they were able to build something else and light, because they were able to secure the funds to build a housing project. But, the protesters were, they showed up in numbers. They showed up in force to prevent this from happening. And folks, I think that's a blueprint. Don't you agree, Blanche? I mean, that's a blueprint. I mean, if they're trying to build it, bring housing projects to your neighborhood, get out there and protest. Call your neighbors, call your friends. I mean, even Steph Curry, who just came out and endorsed Kamala Harris, didn't want housing projects built near his home there in California. He and his wife wrote a letter to the city council trying to prevent housing projects from being built in their neighborhood. So it's ironic that he would go and then endorse the candidate Kamala Harris, who's trying to build multiplicities of these housing projects across the country. Yet you wrote a letter, you and your wife wrote a letter preventing these housing projects from being built in your neighborhood. You can't make this stuff up.
And Dave Chappelle did it too.
Right. Right. Yeah, he did. He went to the city council and everything and gave a speech and all this and all these things. So
and this is what I mean by these people. So this is how you know they're not good people, because they know they don't want this stuff for them. So that means they want it for somebody else. And so they'll endorse a candidate because they feel like what the candidate is doing won't affect them. And so this is what your Steph Curry's and Dave Chappelle's and all the rest of them. They still haven't built the towers though.
Okay. I was under the impression that they did.
That was back in 2021. And I don't see anything where they've actually built those towers yet, because again, they're being sued by developers. The city is.
Yeah. My apologies. But the thing is, Newark, New Jersey is an S-hole right now. And it's because, I mean, even if the Kawaida Towers didn't end up being built, the element was still brought to Newark, New Jersey as a result of other housing projects being built, as a result of Amari Baraka's presence there in Newark, New Jersey. They were still able to be successful in terms of bringing down the morale of the city because of their antics. I mean, we just read what Kawaida was all about or vis-a-vis Amari Baraka, what he believed in terms of bridging the gap between race and politics and this and that, and teaching Black folks about their American heritage and da-da-da-da-da. And that to me is so strange. I mean, you are celebrating a continent that literally sold you into slavery, right?
Right.
The fact that you live in America, the fact that you live in the United States, which gives you untold opportunity to make something of yourself, right? I mean, here I'm talking to you as a man who used to be homeless, who got into the trade, to the plumbing trade as an apprentice, and was able to learn the trade and master the trade and start a business using the trade, and to provide a service to customers, Black, white, Indian, Asian, Hispanic, so on and so forth. And I'm able to make a living off of a trade here in the United States because of opportunities that are afforded to me in this country. Right. I would venture to say that the opportunities that are available to me here would not have been available to me in Africa. In some parts of Africa, yes, but in many parts, no. And this is just a straight fact. It's just a straight fact. And the reason is that the American way, in terms of being able to lift yourself up by your bootstraps, to put your best foot forward, to seize opportunities and make something of yourself, you can do that here, and you can't do that in many countries around the world. And so it's kind of a Joseph-esque blessing. And the reason I say Joseph-esque is because he was sold into slavery by his brothers and went on to Egypt, where he was a slave there in Egypt, to become second in command to Pharaoh, right? So he was able to make something out of his circumstances. You can too make something out of your circumstances, but to adorn the silhouette of the African continent on your rearview mirror, on your rearview mirror, and to adorn the African continent and art around your house, and have African masks and everything that you put around your house because you want to stay true to your African roots. Never mind the fact that you were sold into slavery by this continent, or folks who were the leaders in this continent, to then go on to be in the most opportunity rich country in the world, and to hate this country that has given you these opportunities, and long to be part of a culture that rejected you and in fact sold you into slavery. To me, it seems like a mental disorder. What do you think, Blanche, about that? I think you gave a great biblical reference. You think about it, Joseph was really thrown and left for dead in a pit, and he was
captured by slavery. Kind of like the same thing with Africans. Your quote unquote brothers, you know, rounded you up and sold you into slavery. And you came to America, and like Joseph, you had the opportunity to be maybe not second in command. You had the opportunity to be very successful. You had the opportunity to be wealthy. So it's kind of the same story. And black folks, they read their word. It would seem more prophetic to them if they took that angle of it. Just imagine how much more powerful it would have been for black people to take the biblical version of it. We were sold into slavery by our brothers. We come to America and look what we've achieved. And then even the story of Joseph, when he saw his brothers, even him loving them and, you know, giving them food to take back and, you know, forgiving them, all that same kind of concept. And this is how, you know, God's word is truth, because look at what the outcome would have been. And so instead of black people hating America, look how much better America would have been if the progress of black people in America had been fortified by the word of God, meaning communism doesn't sneak in, socialism doesn't sneak in. You really have God's word continue to propel that people. America would have been leaps and bounds greater than what it is today if black folks had just stuck in the word. And even when black people strayed from the word, they still got what they wanted. The 4 largest cities in America have black mayors. There's a black president, a black woman running for president now. You have black, like,
unfortunately,
unfortunately. But I'm saying she ain't really black, but you get my point. My point is, even with black people straying from, you know, the path of righteousness, they still have gotten what they wanted. I'm just saying, just imagine what they could have gotten righteously had they stayed in the word. And so to me, it's what you said is spot on with the story of Joseph and what he was able to do, and also the amount of character that Joseph had. Joseph went to prison like y'all. You know, Joseph was in prison with y'all. He had the same struggles y'all did, went to slavery, went to prison, and still rose to second in command over all of Egypt. So, and he was favored as basically the Pharaoh's right-hand man. So y'all could have had the same thing, but instead you chose to glorify and worship, because that's what it is, Chad. It is a worshiping of African culture. It is a worshiping of African people. Those people sold y'all into slavery. Make no mistakes about it. The white people only came to Africa. The first ever, you know, company shipping and receiving was in Africa, where white people came there and they bought their money or their gold or guns or whatever, and y'all gave them people. If there wasn't a market for them to get people, they wouldn't have came there. They went to where y'all, and everybody went there. It wasn't just whites. It was Portuguese. It was Spanish. It was Arabs. Everybody went there to get their slaves. So y'all didn't just do it for white people. Y'all were known as the global supermarket for slave labor. And
right,
y'all don't get any kind of criticism for that. Zero. None. You got Amiri Baraka in New Jersey getting mad at white folks in America, but wearing kente cloth and dashikis and stuff. It's just crazy. Yeah, and it's still not built. That tower, they're getting sued by developers now because they done probably sold them a pipe dream or defaulted on some payments. You know how they do. But they got a black they got a black mayor. So
yeah, my apologies for saying it was built. I thought it was built, but I mean, again, if you look at Newark, New Jersey, it does have many housing projects. So even if Kawaida Towers wasn't built, there were other housing projects that were built, and as a result, Newark, New Jersey is an S-hole because of all the element and the crime and violence that was brought to it as a result. So
somebody on Instagram said they're building walkways from New Jersey to to connect to neighboring surrounding towns. So they're trying to make it easy for folks to just walk to the neighboring towns.
I would move.
Yeah, I definitely would move.
I'd move to Texas.
Hold on, Chad, but I think they tried to.
Except my parents told me the right thing.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think they tried to build it, Chad, between 1972 and 1974. They tried to actually build it.
Okay.
but I don't know what happened, but they tried to, I got to look into it. They tried to build it.
But I mean, you saw the whole debacle there. I mean, you saw all these blacks sitting there protesting and singing, coming up with songs on the spot. Everybody singing along. You had the black folks on one side, white folks on the other, and they were saying, "Kawaida Towers will rise." That was the slogan. Kawaida Towers will rise against the pushback of the white and black protesters who were saying, we don't want these towers built near our neighborhood. To me, I think that's a very fascinating episode in American history.
Yes.
That no one knows anything about, but it's important to pay attention to, because you understand the agenda behind the building of such towers. Because I mean, to me, I've said this a million times and I'll say it here and now, that the existence of a housing project is the embodiment of socialism. It's exactly what it is. It's the kind of microcosmic example of what socialism looks like, and it doesn't look pretty. All of these Democrat-run cities where they get the opportunity to implement and impose their socialist ideas, where they batter the wealthier element of their city and make them to pay for the lower element of their society, of their city, it doesn't end well. Those who make money, those who are productive in that city, end up moving to other cities. So the tax capital goes way down, and then the city goes bankrupt. And then they look to the government, they look to the state or to the federal government to try to make up for what they've lost in the way of productivity. And so as they do this, the federal government expands all the more, because the federal government then expands bureaucracies. They then expand their role, their executive role, as a governing entity, and they have more sway, more power over autonomous cities. And so, we always say, and I'll say again, that local elections are very important, are vastly important. And to the extent that you get this young, ambitious candidate running for mayor or for city council who's promising you that we're going to build this, or we're going to build that, and we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Well, all the things that he's promising you cost money. And guess who has to pay for it? You, the homeowner. That's who ends up holding the bill for all of these high visions and dreams that these politicians have. The money just doesn't fall out of the sky. No, it comes from you, the taxpayer. And if you're not willing to pay for it, they're going to go to the federal government to pay for it. And when the federal government gets involved, that limits and restricts your freedom and your autonomy as a city and as a family and as a home. And so you should be very careful and be very wary of these young and ambitious, and not even young in most cases. We see Tim Walz. He's a man in his late 50s, right? I think he's actually in his 60s, if I'm not mistaken. But even he, the governor of Minnesota, has all these wild aspirations as a governor of a state, to increase the role of the federal government. You have to pay for it. Their ideas might sound good to you, but you have to operate with a degree of maturity and wisdom to not fall for the banana in the tailpipe. You have to move with some degree of prudence and say, look, even though their ideas sound good, they cost money, and I'll have to pay for it. And the money that I earn, I want for my family to enjoy as much as possible. I don't want to be taxed 40%, 50%, 60% in some cases. I want for my hard-earned money to go to my family, who I am responsible for raising, who I'm responsible for providing for. I don't want for my money to be turned into tax dollars to then fund unproductive people who are not interested in working to make a living. Why do I have to explain this, Blanche?
Again, my eyes are opened by what have been opened by you and Chuck, you know, breaking down not just communism, but breaking down how much is seeped into the fabric of America. And I think that you have to explain it because people don't understand the genesis of how communism starts in this country and how subtle it is and how subversive it is. To even think about these people are protesting for the government to build for them a place to stay. Like just think about that concept. These are grown men protesting for the city of Newark, New Jersey to build for them a place to stay. And if anybody objects, they're racist. And I looked, and the reason why the towers didn't get built was because they lost in court. The people was like, no. And so it never got built. And so it says on, I think, July the 17th or whatever, in July, they filled the hole up. They had dug the foundation out, and they filled the hole in on July 17th, basically saying it was a burial. And apparently the mayor of Newark at the time, he had approved with Amiri Baraka. And again, Chad, they can't even see that that is socialism. They can't even see that what Waltz and Harris are saying is socialism. It's funny to me about black people is that black people love the 48 laws of power, except when it says despise the free lunch. My thing is, if free lunch is something that you're told that is bad for you, you all love to quote these 48 laws of power. You all love to quote despise the free lunch and all this stuff. But it's funny when the government starts saying they want to give you something free, now all of a sudden you become foolish and silly. There's nothing free. So again, if Kamala Harris and Waltz are offering you something free, there is a cost somewhere for somebody. There is nothing that is free. They can't just make something and it not cost. Everything deals with cause and effect. The Bible tells you that which a man soweth, he shall also reap. So there's no such thing as you just doing something and that's just the thing you're doing. Is no, there's always something that's going to happen behind what you're doing. And so anybody promising you free lunch is not good. Just think about free lunch in school. This food is trash. Like, think about anytime you've gotten something free from the government, when has it ever been good? I was talking with someone about healthcare, universal healthcare. I was like, could you all imagine? I'm getting a tooth implant, right? Could you imagine I have a cracked tooth and I'm under universal healthcare? I probably won't get seen because it's something that's cosmetic. I probably won't get seen for like 3 years. So imagine me having to endure this pain for 3 years. And then finally, I get the tooth extracted. Then I got to wait another 3 years to get the implant. Then another 3 years to get the actual crown put in the implant. So just imagine this decade-long process to get one tooth put in my mouth. Meanwhile, all the pain I'm experiencing, like it's just unrealistic. So what they're offering you is going to come with a great cost. There are people in other places that have this universal health care and they have cancer. Could you imagine having cancer with universal health care? Could you imagine having any kind of ailment with universal health care? Could you imagine being on a waiting list and they're telling you, you have to wait to get treated for something that might kill you in 2 years, but the waiting list is for 5 years? Like, do you all understand that there's no such thing as something given to you for free? It's insanity. No one in their right mind is going to give you something for free. And if they do, you best believe they're going to expect a huge payment in return. If you go to prison tomorrow and you go into that cell after processing, you see a honey bun on your bed. You know that honey bun, you may think is free. But that honey bun, the cost of that honey bun is going to cost you literal buns because nothing is free. So even it doesn't work anywhere. So if somebody's offering you something like a housing project for you all to stay there for free, what's going to be the cost? What are you going to pay? I guarantee if you stay in that housing project now, you're going to have to get the shot when it comes back around. You're going to have to comply with the federal government to stay in these places. You're going to have to do certain things to stay there. It's not going to be you stay there free and be a rebel. No, you're going to comply with the government. I remember, Chad, there was like 90 acres bought here in Georgia, and it was this black town that was bought in Georgia. Everybody made a rave about it. I went and looked it up. Guess what? It was 90 acres bought by the government. And these black folks are running these quote unquote 90 acres. And there was a 90 acres of a town, had an abandoned movie theater.
I remember that.
Remember that? It was the government that did it. So again, no one's going to give you 90 acres for free.
Without any strings attached, right?
Without any strings attached. So again, black folks don't understand that the communist way, the stuff sounds beautiful in the beginning. We're going to stick it to the system. We're going to tax the rich. We're going to make sure you all have enough. We're going to make sure everybody's equal. We're going to make America great. This is what they sell you. But at what cost? What's going to be the cost of them, quote unquote, making everybody equal? It's insane. So
your soul.
Your soul. How are you going to make, think about it, Chad. You and I know people that are degenerates. You mean to tell me you all are fighting so that we're all equal? You mean to tell me that I have to be on the same level as a degenerate? Like me and Chad got to subject ourselves to be on the same level as them, get paid the same amount of money, have the same status, have the same rank? No, that's ungodly. that's satanic and demonic. It's crazy. That's insane. Now we're all equal in value to God, but what a man puts forth in his life, he should reap the harvest of that. So it's not that we work hard and y'all get the benefit. That's what they're basically saying. You white people work hard and we get the benefit of somewhere to stay for free. That is insane.
About it, right? And I've tried to fix. Yeah. I grew up in New Jersey in the 50s and 60s, and race wasn't even an issue. It didn't exist. Right. We were, except my parents told me the right thing about it. Right. And I've tried to, by the way, portray the right thing about it.
Well, there's no question about that.
Which you have said.
Those people over there, right? We think about in the age of Trump. We think about the nefarious resurgence of racism under Jeff Sessions and under Steve Bannon. There's no question about that. So that even if your intent is certainly not to cause any kind of pain or horror, you do know that the use of that word then triggered, I think, not only the unconscious, but the way in which black people feel on their haunches now because of the resurgence of racism that the reason I'm here is because you have attacked that. You are the one who said denying racism is the new racism. You're the one who called Donald Trump out on his racism and forced him to show his birth certificate. But what's interesting and tricky here is that when I talk about white privilege in my book, I talk about people who are consciously the allies of black people, but who may also inadvertently, unintentionally, but nonetheless lethally participate in a culture that ends up hurting, as you've acknowledged, black people in a way that has to be grappled with. That's why I think there was so much outrage and hurt and pain. People don't think, oh, Bill Maher is a racist. I don't think most people thought that. What they thought was, if even Bill Maher can at some level capitulate to a level of unconscious privilege, then the rest of us are in a serious spot.
I can't wait to not read his book. The little book he was talking about. I can't wait to not read it. Like that's what I talked about in my book. The hidden white blah 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 blah. Like I can't wait to not read that garbage.
It's just word salad though. He's just ramming dude. Like it's a bunch of nonsense.
And the fact that he's saying that you hurt black men by saying that word. I mean, the black men that Bill Maher hurt by saying nigga deserve to be hurt.
Yeah, they do.
They deserve to be hurt. If a word can trigger you and cause you to have convulsions, I'm sorry, but it's like you're not fit for the real world. You're just not. You're just not. But you know, the reason why I wanted to show Michael Eric Dyson, who considers himself something of a public intellectual, who was saying that black men need to feel hurt, feel beside themselves at the sound of a word. The reason I wanted to show that is because this is actually having ramifications in society. There was a man recently, I think was it Baltimore? Blanche? Where was that?
Where?
So there was a man recently, a 52-year-old man whose name is Marquise.
Oh, that was in Georgia.
Georgia. Okay, that was in Georgia. So
No,
there's a man. Right. So let me pull this up here. So the kinds of things that Michael Eric Dyson is saying here has actual real world ramifications, and I wanted to show an example of that. But before I do, let's get through some of these supers. Let's read some of these supers. Let me put on my glasses. So we got a super from Dayon. Says white America, it's a $10 super chat. He says white Americans are more afraid of saying nigga than using the Lord's name in vain. Black privilege / ideology. Yes, you're right, 100%. I mean that's true. I don't know if I can add anything to that. I mean, you're 100% right. Got another one, $10 from Vintage Goods, 1511 Willie or 1551 Willie. So the same theory will be applied to pedos and LGBTQ to allow them to refer to themselves as a derogatory term, but you can't. Okay, right? 100%.
True.
Susie Q says, get one of Chad's plumbing hats, and then she leaves a link. Thank you, Susie Q. Really appreciate your moderation of the show tonight. Greatly appreciate it. Logic's Finest says, Shadow Jackson, have you ever seen the debate between Michael Eric Dyson and Jordan Peterson? Shows Dyson at his victimhood mentality, race hustling worse. Yes, he called it, and it's disgusting. It's just utterly disgusting. He calls Jordan Peterson a mean, mad white man. What if I almost said something I shouldn't have said. What? It wasn't very manly. Let me just put it that way.
Oh, it was disgusting.
Idra Singleton, Blanche is 100% correct. I didn't know my white male friends at work were conservatives. They will keep it quiet. I learned that when I voted for Trump. Right. I mean, and it's because people are afraid to be conservative. People are afraid to have values. People are afraid to have standards. This is where the term silent majority comes from, which is a term that I detest. I mean, if you have values and you have principles, be bold about it. Who has silenced you into submission? Who has silenced you to the point that you're willing to stay silent in public, but you're willing to express yourself in the privacy of the voting booth?
It's weak.
It's weak. It's pathetic. Be a man. Good grief. Thank you, Idra Singleton, for the $5 super chat. Really appreciate it. A bus driver, Chad. On a serious note, I'm not sure if you know who Vocab Malone is, but he's a popular Christian YouTuber. He's doing a show on slavery, and I'm curious what you'll think of it. I'll check it out. Thank you for that, a bus driver. Thank you for that recommendation. Really appreciate it. $5 super chat from My Soap. Given 75% of U.S. males are obese, and knowing that fat cells produce estrogen, could this explain male emotionalism? I think that's part of it. But also, too, I don't think it's an excuse, quite frankly. I think that the Bible is true when it says that God has written his word on our heart. He's written the truth on our heart. However, we suppress the truth in righteousness. So I think it's a man's willful action, a man's willful decision to suppress the truth with his unrighteousness that causes this emotionalism, that causes this effeminization, that causes this silence and this cowardice. We can blame chemical reaction. We can blame the food that people consume. We can blame obesity. We can blame all of the neurological and consumption of foods and this, that, and the third. But the reality of it is that man actively makes the decision to suppress the truth and unrighteousness. There is no excuse other than the fact that you made the decision to be a coward. So So yes, I think that's part of it, but it's a very small part of it. The bulk of it, the lion's share of it, is you made the active decision to be a coward. Is what I say. What do you think, Blanche?
Yeah, nobody's forcing you all to eat this food. You're eating this food because you more than likely you lack discipline. If 75% of males are obese, it is a reflection of the men. The men set the standard, so that's why America's getting fatter. It's because the men are fat, and it's usually due to a mindset. They don't see an importance or an urgency in being healthy and being around. You know, so that is 100%. You know, on the men. Someone on Instagram said it's hard to understand how a person can be that successful, you know, basically still be a victim, which is in Michael Eric Dyson. But I would argue that he didn't get his career off of character, so it didn't cost him blood, sweat, and tears to be where he is. You know, it was who he knew. It was writing off of programming and propaganda. He didn't actually earn it. It was just basically on a silver platter for him. Whereas Chad had to study under an apprentice. He had to learn a trade. He had to get sweat equity in what he's doing. He had to try. He had to fail. Then he had to go out on his own. So that's what builds character. So these intellectuals have careers based on getting somewhere by what someone's opinion is of them. It's not necessarily going to build your character up. What builds character is you actually, you know, trying something and using the faith that God's given us. Every man's given a measure of faith. So you saying, I'm going to trust God in this process. And then you learn from your failures, and you also learn from your accomplishments and your successes. So that's the difference between Michael Eric Dyson and someone like Chad. And most of these people that we see on TV, they didn't really earn it more than they may be talented, but talent comes from God. What you earn is what you take these things that aren't something, you make them something. So Chad didn't wake up a plumber. He had to become a plumber. You could have been born with a gift to sing or to be funny or something. That could have been a gift you were given, but Chad had to become a plumber. And so these people don't become anything. They find a lane that's easy to manipulate, and they go into the field, and it's a bunch of like word salad and gobbledygook. It's just, I'm gonna write papers about theories, and I'm always right because I'm talking about white people being bad. Think about it. Think about how they got to where they are. They took a stance, white people are wrong, and they rode it to the day. Look how profitable it is to say white people are bad. Michael Eric Dyson has been around for how long? He's been a pastor from it, an author from it, radio show host from it, looked to as the who's who, as a black intellectual from it, like just a college professor from it. Look at all that Michael Eric Dyson has gained from simply taking a stance that it's the white person's fault and I can't succeed because white people are holding me back. That one premise has catapulted him to a millionaire status. There is no equivalent to that on the white side. A white person is not going to get rich and become a millionaire talking about how bad they have it from black folks in America. It's not going to happen. That only exists in a particular space with black people. No other race gets that privilege to have an entire career built on blaming another race, and you be nationally known, internationally known, and locally recognized.
Right. Got a $5 super chat from Starved Baby, Luke 6:27-28. Always keep the faith. Right, Luke 6:27-28, which says something to the effect of, love your enemies, do good to those who persecute you, bless those who curse you. Basically, again, do good to those who persecute you. If somebody's calling you the N-word for whatever reason, be it derogatorily or endearingly, I mean, so what? Skin off your back, let it roll off your back. Even if you think they're trying to persecute you, do good to those who persecute you. You can't call yourself a Christian or a man of God, and yet you get all emotional and taken aback because somebody said a word. So you can't convince me that you're a Christian, but yet you are emotionalized and out of breath because somebody called you a word. I mean, again, genuine believers, genuine Christians, they put into practice the word of God. And so you're absolutely right, Star Baby. Keep the faith. If you're a genuine believer, it will show in how you're not only your actions, but also your reactions. $10 super chat from Idris Singleton. When Obama ran, I tried to get the white guys to vote for him. They were like, we might consider it. All along, they didn't like the policies, but didn't let me know until I became a Trump supporter. Right, because I mean, unfortunately, a lot of white folks are afraid to tell the truth and to stand on business, which is unfortunate. Chris Creative or Creative? Chris Creative? I mean, sorry, I have a public school education, so I don't know. It's creative.
Creative.
Well, there's an H in there, so that's what threw me off. Alexandria, Virginia elected a young Black woman as mayor. She wants to bring, quote, affordable housing, unquote, to mostly white, nice area. You know what that means. Yeah. I know exactly what that means. And again, a lot of voters, unfortunately, Black voters in particular, are intrigued by and enamored of the surface level, instant gratification elements of what politicians say. They don't think long term. They don't think what the long term ramifications are of the policies, whether it be of the mayor, whether it be from the mayor of Alexandria, Virginia, whether it be from Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or Barack Hussein Obama or whomever. They don't think about the long term ramifications of these policies. They think of what they can get instantly from these policies. But the fact is, it obliterates morale. It obliterates the economy. It obliterates the society. It causes inflation. It causes depression. It causes the whole, everything detrimental to society. These policies cause. And so I think that's part and parcel of the way in which Black people make decisions. And it's unfortunate. And only God can change that. Chris Creative again. I read the Dems want to break up Republican voting areas by changing voting laws.
He turned Jamaica, and I see a thing of affordable housing and multiple family units.
Multiple housing. Yeah. And it's not so. And again, that's only part of it. They're also wanting to build new housing projects in these areas as well, because they understand the implications and the ramifications that will have on voting patterns in those specific areas. So they're being very strategic, which again is what they're doing is multifold. On the one hand, when Kamala Harris says she wants to build 3 million new housing units across the country, she's appealing to people who want, quote unquote, affordable housing. So she's winning the votes and the admiration and the support of people who are in search of, quote unquote, affordable housing. But once she does implement those housing projects, they will be built in strategic areas with the attempt to break up Republican voting blocks and to saturate these areas with Democrats who are living in these housing projects, so as to guarantee Democrat votership moving forward. That's the whole purpose of it. So it's very strategic what they're doing. These people are in it for the long haul, and that's the truth. So we'll end the show with this. So I talked about how Michael Eric Dyson, along with many others, be they Mark Lamont Hill, be they Cornel West, on and on and on I can go, Tavis Smiley, they all agree that Black men in particular should be emotionalized and triggered when people use words. And as I said in the beginning of the show, and as I'll prove now, this really does have ramifications in society. You see Black men all the time who are pearl clutching at the sound of a word that they construe as being racist. And I wanted to share an example of that. So this actually happened about 48 hours ago. So this is actually fresh. There was a man whose name is Marquise who is gearing up to sue Chick-fil-A because they misspelled his name. So I wanted to share this story with you all. Let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, so this is the receipt right here. It says monkeys, right? He ordered 3 chicken strips, some medium fries, some 4 Chick-fil-A sauces for 3 chicken strips. I don't know how that works, but there you go. He ordered 4 sauces for 3 chicken strips and an Arnold Palmer, half tea, half lemonade. So that's what he ordered.
I mean, that's something a monkey would eat, right?
And his name is Marquise, but they put monkeys here on the receipt.
I'm putting this on video, not you, but I'm putting this on video. Where's the manager?
I'm the manager. I'm sorry, I don't want to be the leader. I was just stepping out.
Okay, so
can I have you pull up, sir? I'm gonna talk to you up here.
All right. The Chick-fil-A and the plate. All right, so what's your excuse for why this person?
There is no excuse. What was the name that you gave me?
I told him Marquise. That's not even close to Marquise.
No, sir, it's not.
Marquise.
I'm gonna go ahead and have a talk with him right now.
I'm going to write a letter to corporate about this. This is very offending.
And I agree, and I'm so sorry that you even had to go through this. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and put in a refund for you for the inconvenience. I'm gonna go ahead and have a talk with them. I'm so sorry about this. I'm sorry. Let me go handle this for you. You pay with the card, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it's gonna go back into your card within 1 to 3 days for you.
That's fine.
Okay, and I'm sorry again about this.
I'm about to go inside. There's Chick-fil-A down here in La Plata.
He said down here where?
Who was at the drive-thru. How you doing? Is the guy who was at the drive-thru who wrote monkeys on my receipt, is he available?
He was like,
I think it's him in the red.
Nobody can answer my question?
I'm sorry, sir, what was your question?
I asked them, they ignored me. I said, is the guy who wrote monkeys on my receipt, is he available? I want to talk to him.
No, sir, I can't have you speak to him right now.
Is he still here?
He's leaving.
Okay. I'm going to make sure that this video goes viral. This is unacceptable.
Yes, sir, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that had to happen.
So I just want to make sure I got you on camera too. So him putting down monkeys, would you feel offended by that?
Yeah, I understand. Yes, I would.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what's going to happen from here? Is he going to be terminated?
So I'm going to give you my store manager's,
Okay.
general manager's number.
Okay. I'll do it.
okay, so then she gives him the number to the store manager. And I mean, Blanche, this to me appears to be an honest mistake on the part of the person who took his order. His name is Marquise, right? And there's a number of explanations for it. Maybe he heard Monkeys and put it in how he heard it, the person taking his delivery. Another explanation is maybe he put what he thought he heard and then auto-translate, switched the word to monkeys or monkeys. There's numerous explanations for it. We know what auto-translate does. And the idea that, I mean, this man was in a, I don't know if you saw, but it said white van on the little receipt.
Yeah.
And you can tell by where the cup holder is that he's in a work van. So he's using company time to go in and harass these people. and demand to see the employee that wrote monkeys on his little receipt there. It's like, man, you don't got anything better to do than to harass these people because of an honest mistake. I mean, it's very obvious what he's trying to do, and this to me, Blanche, is a result of his own pathetic nature on the one part, but it's also a result of such figures as Martin Luther King and Al Sharpton and Michael Eric Dyson, who have made black men comfortable with being weak, with being pathetic, and feeling like they need to make a scene everywhere they go because they misconstrue something as racist. What say you?
Well, I agree with what you said, and I just want to say that when you mentioned the computer typing in the name or the person, so imagine a person that comes to America and they learn English. And then they go through all of this studying and learning English, you know, basically just how to speak it. And then later on how to write it and all this. And then English is very difficult to learn because the way that we write doesn't really match the way that we speak. And so because there's so much slang in American culture and so many different sayings, and it's a lot to learn when you come over here from another country to learn English. It's not easy. Especially because context, you have to learn the context of the language a lot of times. Imagine a foreigner coming over here and they get to learn English and they're feeling confident and they start working at Chick-fil-A, and then they're in the morning working, and then black people start pulling up. And you start hearing Marquise and Montravius and Shaniqua and K-Quay and Lexus, and you start hearing all these names. Now, when you were studying English, you learned John and Bill, Martha, Mary, but then black folks start coming with all kind of names. They don't teach you in the English class. They don't teach you this. So he's on the headset saying, my name is Marquise. And think about somebody that doesn't speak the language. He's not spelling it as monkeys. He's spelling it as MON-KEYS, monkeys. He's not saying monkeys. And so it's an honest mistake. But guess what? Black folks don't care about context. They don't care about nuance. So trying to explain that to him, and it's going to be pointless. This guy wanted this person to be fired. Imagine you get out of your work truck demanding somebody get fired for an honest mistake. No one's going to call you a monkey. And even if they did put monkey on there, and you should have knew it was a mistake because they put an S on the end of monkeys. So clearly they're trying to sound like your name. They didn't say monkey. They said monkeys because you said your name was Marquise with a Southern accent. They don't learn English.
Marquise.
You know what I'm saying? They don't learn English with you all's accent. You all don't care about how you sound. You all talk slang, ebonics, and you say that Marquise, y'all. But someone trying to learn English, it's difficult when they encounter black culture. And so not only is he weak, but he's also silly and he's also foolish. This is a grown man. The woman already told you she's gonna cop your meal. That wasn't good enough. You decide to park the van and go inside, and then you put the owner's name, whoever's name, on his number on social media. Why would you put that man's number? So he don't know what's even going on. Why would you put his number on social media, knowing these nigglets are gonna hop on their cell phone and get the dial on this man 1,000 times, calling him racist? Why would you do that? This is why I say the black man is weak. This is why. You know good and well that that person on that headset can't decipher what you talking about. You didn't say, my name is Marquise when they asked for your name. You said Marquise.
This is the letter that he wrote to Dan Cathy.
Oh, it's in Maryland?
Andrew Cathy.
Oh, no, it's in Maryland. My bad.
So this is a letter that he wrote to Andrew Cathy, the owner of Chick-fil-A. I think he's the CEO. He says, "Dear Mr. Cathy, I would like to take this time to express my outrage and disgust over an appalling," and so you don't use these words in real life, but for this letter he did apparently, an appalling incident I experienced at the Chick-fil-A in La Plata, Maryland. on this past Friday, August the 23rd, 2024, at approximately 8 p.m. Okay, so I guess it was a few days ago. I placed an order through the drive-thru, speaking directly to a young white male. When I reached the pickup window and received my food and drink, I was shocked to see that the label on my order read Monkeys instead of my name, Marquise, which I had clearly communicated to the drive-thru team member. Doubt it. I highly doubt it. I think you're lying. I don't think you clearly articulated anything. I immediately spoke. Yeah, Marquise.
Marquise.
It sounds like monkeys to me.
Yeah, it does. Marquise.
I immediately spoke to a lady who identified herself as a manager on duty, but never gave her name, even though the incident was being recorded. She did apologize and agreed that there is no excuse and that Monkeys is not even close to Marquise. Okay, he's lying about that. She didn't say that it's nowhere close, but she did say that it was a terrible incident. And I think that was foolish on her part. But I don't entirely blame her because she's acting in real time.
And she's young.
Yeah, she's young. In hindsight, probably she wouldn't have agreed to the accusations that he was making, namely that the young man who took his order is at fault or was trying to do something conniving or mischievous. I don't think that it was wise for her to give the implication that he was being mischievous, that he was being racist.
Right.
So that was foolish on her part. I don't think that's that's something a manager should do. But she was wise and did act intelligently by not bringing the young man to the counter to talk to this fool. So I do give credit to her for that. But she wasn't wise to admit or to agree with this notion that what was done mischievously. This manager also reached in my van and pulled the label off my bag. Of course, he's being misleading when he says that because he allows her to pull the label of the bag.
Yeah.
It wasn't as if she was being intrusive. We all saw the video.
Yeah.
This manager also reached into my van and pulled the label off of my bag, which was an evidence to prove the racial name given to me by the young man that took my order. No, it doesn't prove that, you idiot, you fool. The young man that took my order and further stated that she would issue a refund for what she called an inconvenience. This racist and derogatory labeling is not only deeply offensive, but also humiliating as a 52-year-old African-American adult male. Notice he calls himself a male and not a man because he's not a man.
Right.
The sheer hurt, and this is where it gets really gay. The sheer hurt of seeing that word takes me back to a painful history, one where my ancestors endured the same dehumanizing racism that was meant to strip away their dignity. The fact that such a vile slur was used so casually in this day and age is a stark reminder that the trauma of those times are still very much alive. Again, this is the state of the average Black man today, and it's unfortunate. Pathetic, weak, effeminate, so hurt by such small things as a mispronunciation of a name. It's pathetic. It's sickening. It makes me want to throw up.
Hold on, Chad. This man said that it took him back to a time. This is what he said. The sheer hurt of seeing that word takes me back to a painful history, one where my ancestors endured the same dehumanizing racism that was meant to strip away their dignity. Does he have a time machine? He with Michael J. Fox and the professor? Like, how'd you go back in history? This is foolish. You don't know what your ancestors experienced. How do you know this? This is foolish. How did it take you back to a period you never lived in? Help me. This don't make any sense.
What an idiot thing to say.
It's just dumb.
I've been a loyal customer, frequently patronizing this establishment several times a week. That's not healthy. And to be treated in such a dehumanizing manner has caused me significant mental anguish and trauma. This situation is profoundly disheartening, and it's unacceptable that anyone should have to endure such an experience, especially from a business they support, which is the result of a simple autocorrect, but whatever. I was also given, how dare you allow autocorrect to say monkeys instead of Marquise? I was also given the name of a store manager to contact, a man named Kevin, who identified himself as a general manager. When I spoke with him, he begged me to not let this incident go viral and said he would speak with the employee who took my order when that employee returned to work on Monday, August 26, 2024. To this day, I have not heard back from Kevin, and that type of response does little to address the pain and embarrassment I have suffered because of this incident. You gay wad. I did have the opportunity to speak with the store owner, John Flately. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. On Sunday, August 25th, 2024 at approximately 1:24 p.m. During that 20-minute conversation, Mr. Flately, you wasted this man's time for 20 minutes. During that 20-minute conversation, Mr. Flately did apologize, but it's clear that he is currently insensitive and showed no compassion whatsoever, as well he should.
Yeah, it's compassion for what? I mean, what you want me to do? Because he called a monkey. I'm supposed to stop my day? Get off my phone, monkey. Click.
At one point during this conversation, Mr. Flately asked me, quote, if you were in my shoes, what would you do? Unquote. When I asked him if the team member that took my order will be terminated, his response was no. I spoke with him. He's 17 years old and told me that he put down the name he thought he heard you say. So I stand with him and will not terminate him. Good for you, Mr. Flately. That's based. I want to see more of that. Yes. Not this flandering and like, yeah, we're gonna terminate this 17-year-old kid who's just trying to, earn enough money to go to college and da 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 da. Like, no, because you, a 52-year-old grown man, are trying to get the 17-year-old terminated because you are insensitive.
It's crazy, Marquis.
I then asked Mr. Flately if he ever heard of a human being named Monkey. I mean, if you said that, then he said no. I then asked, quote, if it was a black male working the drive-thru and a white man named Harold placed a name and the black team member put his name as Honky, or if it was a white woman named Peggy, and then the black team member put his name as Pig, would your actions to not discipline the team member be the same? Mr. Foley chose not to answer the end of the call. Right, because what you're saying is stupid.
It's stupid. Yeah, I'm not even entertaining. You're talking stupid now.
Peggy and Pig, like you're talking about mistaking a 2-syllable name for a 1-syllable word.
Right.
That's stupid.
Harold and Honky are not. My name is Harold.
Right.
Like monkeys and Marquise. Sounds similar.
Why do we need to explain this though, Blanche? Like that's the part that irritates me. Sincerely, Marquise Vanzingo. So anyway, this is the state of the average black man as a result. I mean, I don't know if it's safe to say average black man, but of quite a few black men as a result of the black intelligentsia, i.e. Michael Eric Dyson, who makes black men feel so bold to do this kind of asinine attention seeking in public. It's embarrassing.
It is. It's disgusting.
It's outright embarrassing. Let's see what some of the comments say. Joshua Anderson, sir, they don't know how to spell. Stop playing victim for a simple mistake. There are bigger fights than crying about miscommunication. I agree, Joshua. I mean, I don't know that they don't know how to spell, but the rest of it I agree with. Kedra and Andrea, this is a black woman. Let's see if the black woman can give some wisdom. Put it on TikTok to make it go viral. Nope. She let me down.
The queen speaks.
The queen speaks. Put it on. See, this is vindictive. This is the kind of woman that the Bible warned you against. This kind of vindictive, this kind of Jezebel spirit with which she's presenting herself. Got 43 likes. I'm sure they're all black. Put it on TikTok to make it go viral, right? This is the kind of the kind of advice, the kind of counsel that these evil Jezebels give you. And he listened, I'm sure.
Of course.
Because he lacks the cojones. Shirley Simmons, hopefully this black woman, this black queen gives him better advice. Okay, what time do we meet to protest at this location? Since Mr. John Flately stands with the 17-year-old, I, sir, stand with you. What time? What time? Again, letting me down. Come on, black women. Y'all can do better than this. Tamika McConaughey. Let's see if she gives some wisdom. Oh, hell no. You need to contact Fox 5 and NBC. Both have investigative departments. Send all this information. I'm definitely sharing and asking people to assist with this going viral. I'm so sick of these double standards. If that had been a black employee offending white customer, they would have been fired ASAP. Come on, black women, 3 for 3.
You gonna see 4 for 4, 5 for 5, 6 for 6.
Nakia Smith. I saw the story on the news tonight. Clapping my hands for holding them accountable. Come on, black women. Chrissy Armwood Morton. My goodness. Sorry you had to experience this, Marquise. I go to Chick-fil-A a lot. They won't get another red cents from me.
Nothing about your profile pic, Christy, says you got no discipline and I'll go to Chick-fil-A. You will be back. That Polynesian sauce is calling your name every day.
So we're 1, 2, 3, 4 for 4, 5 for 5. Let's see if Tony Love redeems the black woman. Wow. I'm sorry that you had to experience that. Totally unacceptable and disappointing coming from a worker at Chick-fil-A, since they've known to be kind and etc. My pleasure. Always a few bad ones in the batch. I understand your feelings and you have every right to address the situation and make it be known. This shouldn't be tolerated in any place, especially a service-related workplace dealing with the public. And I do believe his ill intent should be reason for him to be terminated expeditiously. They learned that word from T.I., by the way. They didn't know this word beforehand. Good job documenting it all as well. I mean, I'm trying to find at least one black woman.
You're not going to find them.
Robin Reeder. Sorry you experienced this. 2, this is infuriating. 3, sharing. 4, they will never see another dime from me. Come on, black women.
He doesn't have no discipline for that.
Tracy Marshall. These are quality franchises. Needless to say, these establishments may be closing its doors after this, or paying a hefty fine.
This is just evil, though, Chad. Like, this is just like wanting the boy to get fired, wanting the business to close. It's just evil.
Yeah, I'm trying to find at least one black woman.
You're not gonna find
when
one.
you go lie, we go high. When you go lie, we go high to the corporate level. Deborah, do not let them get away with this.
You see who's on here responding, right? You see the first black guy said some sense. All the rest of it is black women. It's all black women, literally. They run this. They run this sector, this grievance committee.
Sending you a hug that you went through this. Ugh. That's so cringy and pathetic. Post that number. We all need to call Deshaun. Yolanda, wow, for the owner to stand with him and not fire him says a lot. Shaking my head. Brenda, unacceptable. Okay, I've seen enough.
Chad, it's all women. Look at this, Chad. It's all women.
Yeah.
The first guy said, listen, man, they made a mistake. You tripping. Like, he kept it simple. And guess what? He got the most likes, which means that most people agree with what he said. They just don't want to tell Marquise, aka the monkey, the truth.
Blanche, it was all the black women I found on the comment section were emboldening him and egging him on and basically sending him into this battle, as it were. Not one was willing to give him wise counsel. That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me.
Voting for?
I refuse to believe that. I don't know. I refuse to believe that all black women are this crazy.
Can I give you some real numbers?
Yeah.
9.5 out of 10.
That's a lot.
Give you the numbers.
What do you think that comes from?
Because they have so much. There's no male leadership. So this is what it looks like. It looks like a bunch of women able to, like, it's no male leadership. So you don't really see it in other cultures as much because there's still men around it like, no, but in the Black community, they run it. So you see what they're telling him to do. They're giving him all the instructions. Call the news. I saw, get the boy fired. So yeah, 9.5. You talk to the average Black woman, they support Kamala Harris. Let's tell you everything. I've been doing it. 95% of them support Kamala Harris.
But the comments are just evil and wicked. It's like their lips are just dripping with venom.
Because they want revenge.
Let's get the 17-year-old boy fired for an honest mistake. Something, once again, that could have easily been autocorrect. You're trying to take, you've seen these Chick-fil-A lines. These things are sometimes wrapped around the building, especially at certain hours of the day.
But Chad, it probably was the AI doing it. It probably heard the name and it's probably just repeated typed in what it heard. They probably saw a white van. You know what I'm saying? It was all automatically generated. It wasn't even the young man that did it.
Do we have any Chick-fil-A workers in the chat? Anybody who's worked at Chick-fil-A, worked the drive-thru? Tell the truth. Whenever you type in a name, is it possible that these things can autocorrect or what have you? I'm curious to know. I don't. The thing is, Marquise, monkeys, it does sound very similar. Monkeys, and the fact is, I refuse to believe that this young man typed in monkeys. I'm sure he typed in monkeys and it autocorrected to monkeys.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's what happened. And you're operating at such a high speed because we all know, especially the hour that was given, you can look at the time on the receipt. This is a high traffic time for Chick-fil-A.
People getting off work, yeah.
Right. So you're trying to get these orders through, you're moving on to the next one, and you're holding up traffic and you're making a scene because of an honest mistake. And this man, I was looking at his profile and he's known for doing this. He's known for, he was telling the story, Blanche, of, and I'm see if I can pull it up. He was telling the story of basically being upset that he went to the doctor for something like for a physical or for a checkup or something like that. And he had this tingling sensation that went from his neck down to his left arm. And he forgot to mention it to the doctor. And so when he left, he got into his car and remembered that he had this issue. So he tried to go back into the doctor's office to ask the doctor about it. But the young man at the front desk said, "Sorry, you have to schedule another appointment." And he got upset and started calling the man all kinds of names and stuff like that.
Hold on. Somebody on here said that her niece works at Chick-fil-A and they type the names in, but it can be auto-corrected. So just when you type them in, it probably...
I already know.
You probably type in, you're moving so fast, like you try to type in Marquise and then you hit enter and it probably, made it monkeys, and then just...
Yeah, I already know what it is. I never worked at Chick-fil-A, but that's straight common sense right there. See if I can't. Let's see here. So this is the man here. And he has a son. Good. Imagine doing this kind of thing and your children saying it.
What's up, y'all? Just trying to take this moment, be transparent about a little situation I had to deal with this morning. Went to the doctor to get my annual physical, And along with, I've been having this tingling in my left arm going from like the back of my neck down to my left arm.
It's a pinched nerve.
Doctor, go get the physical, get all my lab work stuff done. And I leave out the doctor's office, get into my work truck. Then I'm like, man, he ain't mentioned anything about the, he didn't discuss the tingling that I'm having in my arm. So I go back inside the doctor's office, and I tell the guy at the front desk, I don't know if he's a nurse or whatever, but I told him, I said, the doctor forgot to address the issue that I'm having in my arm. And I had just left out of the office. And his response was, I'm sorry, but you got to schedule another appointment. And when he said that, it pissed me off, right? And I was like, why do I have to schedule another appointment? I just left. Why can't I just see him, even if I got to wait a few minutes or whatever until he gets finished with his next patient? He said, well, he's fully booked for today.
Yeah.
Overbooked. So you're going to have to schedule another appointment. I said, I'm not scheduling another appointment. He said, well, sir, I don't know what to tell you. You're going to have to just schedule the appointment. I said, I'm not doing all of that. I'm going to stand right here. And he left from the front desk, and I had some choice words for him that I said.
Anyway, so I mean, his Facebook, his social media is filled with all these kind of incidents, and it's like, I think you're the common denominator, quite frankly. I really do. I mean, you expect people to bend the rules for you? I don't know.
And is he married? Like again, think about what type of woman would deal with him. Like, it's going to be a woman in charge. Like, a woman that deals with him is going to be the woman that's going to be running the house.
Do you think he's voting for Trump or Kamala?
Come on, man. He got a Kamala tramp stamp on his lower back. You think he ain't voting for Kamala? Please. He probably got a video about voting for Kamala. Just weak and disgusting, trying to be offended. He told you the doctor was booked. So you want to inconvenience somebody else because you forgot to bring up your tingling arm, and then your arm wasn't tingling when you was in there because you surely did skip out of there. My arm was tingling. You got a pitch nerve, man.
Right.
Like, it ain't rocket science. Go to the chiropractor.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, these are the kind of men that the Michael Eric Dysons of the world, the Martin Luther Kings of the world, the Jesse Jacksons of the world, the Al Sharptons of the world produce. They're among you. They are in your neighborhood. They're at work with you. They are coming through your drive-thrus. They are always looking for an opportunity to accuse you of racism to get a payday. That's the net result of
he's trying to get a payday. He's trying to find something that sticks. Yeah, he's trying to.
Right. Blanche, I'll give you the last word. I think we got hold on. We got some supers that I got to get through before I do that. You want to read them?
Okay. I think we start with Danny Nightblade. It's a bit off topic, but I really like conservative Stacey Dash. A while back, she bent the knee to the woke mob, and it broke my heart. Conservatives need to be strong and not give into the woke mob. I will tell anybody this right now, that the people aren't going to accept you if you bow down to them. Like their goal is to destroy you. So you acquiescing to their demands is not going to make them leave you alone. They're just going to destroy you. It's best for you to hold your gun because you'll be respected in the end anyway. Like, think about it. They can't stop talking about Trump because he doesn't yield to them. So he's always on their mind. He's always something to talk about. They actually respect Trump. They're so afraid of anything around him, of him just becoming this whatever dictator or whatever, but it's because they respect him. When you bow a knee to the left, they don't respect you. They want you destroyed. They don't.
Right.
You know what I mean? They don't care. They're not trying to re-educate. They're trying to destroy you.
Right. Right. 100%.
Juan Gonzalez, Ephesians 6:10. The war is real. Thank you, Chad and Bland, for standing for the truth. Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
Appreciate it.
Wax got a membership. Gifted 5 Channel Jackson memberships. Thank you, Wax.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm
an emotional black man, and this video title offends me. You'll be hearing from my mother. That's genius. That's genius. 0212. Thank you for the super sticker. Vintage Goods Willie. Simeon is what he is. Who is Simeon? Vintage Goods Willie. Who? He calling a monkey.
But you know what's ironic about that, Blanche, is that the whole monkey see, monkey do thing, right?
Yeah.
Like what he's doing is reacting in perfect monkey fashion. In other words, he's seen this kind of woe is me thing work in other situations.
Yeah.
Black person gets a payday because they accuse somebody of being racist because of a perfectly harmless incident. And he's monkey seeing, monkey doing, and trying to get his own payday. So he is acting like a monkey.
Yeah.
So to me, the whole thing is kind of ironic, you know?
Vintage Goods Willie. Baka, chicken, baka, chicken. What? Bald head, scallywag.
Ain't got no hair in bag, gelled up, weaved up.
Your hair is messed up. T Kings. If Marquise thought Chick-fil-A is bad, he better avoid Subway at 2 in the morning, especially in Chicago. home of MAGA country extremists. Yo.
Yeah, you better.
Y'all on fire tonight, man. This is excellent comedy. This is excellent.
All right, Bletch, I'll give you the last word.
I mean, I'll just keep it simple. You know, if you are looking to be offended, then you'll be offended. And it's just that simple. And honestly, if you get offended by something, it means it's true. There's no way you get offended by a lie. If a homeless person called you a bum, you laugh at them. The only reason you get offended by these things is because you believe they're true. So when you read monkeys on the receipt, you felt like, you know, you was a monkey. And so at the end of the day, the Michael Eric Dysons, the Marquises, the whoever else wants to be a victim, the Van Joneses, the Ta-Nehisi Coates, anybody claiming to be a victim, the reason why you play the victim card is because deep down inside you feel like you don't belong. And you're looking for leverage to compete with what you believe your counterpart is, which is white people. And so you're not actually offended. You're trying to find another weapon to fight against white people because you feel inadequate. It's really a weak tactic. At the end of the day, I don't imagine that Chad gets very offended. I don't get very offended because we're not walking around trying to be offended. What someone does doesn't make or break us. And we don't assume that because somebody has an adverse opinion about it, that they're actually true, nor is it even meant to be that offensive. Sometimes folks just say things because they may not like you, or it might be the heat of the moment, or whatever reason, but it doesn't really speak to my person or his person. And again, I go back to following your purpose in God. That way, when you're following God's purpose, it's going to be hard for you to get offended because you're focused on the goal. So if you're walking around looking to be offended by doctors and 17-year-old boys, then guess what? It's going to happen. But the irony of all of this is that these men are weak, but they're going to try to vote communism in their country. We can all agree that communism doesn't favor weak men. In fact, communism is going to make you even more weak. So I don't know. I just think that these men down the side, they don't belong. And I imagine that guy in that work truck, he gets tired of probably, working for white people. And he wants to be the guy telling white folks what to do or hold them to the fire. It's just really narcissism and, idolatry. Well, that's all I have to say. They're just weak.
Yeah. Amen. We got late super from Zachary G. He says, I'm half black and half white. The black in me hates the oppression my white side delivers upon me. Where's my manager? These comments are lit tonight.
Lit.
Thank you, CZQ, for moderating tonight. Really appreciate it. I always enjoy seeing you in the comment section. By the way, so I'm going to just say this because I think I owe it to you all. So I was planning a Cutting Through the Culture event in September, but that ended up falling through because the sponsors that I had in mind were not able to help fund the event. So that didn't end up happening. However, I'm working with April Chapman, or I'm going to work with April Chapman to try to do an event, a 1 or 2 day event in Atlanta in December, first week of December. So hopefully I can get Blanche to headline it. I haven't even talked to him about it yet, so don't mean to put him on the spot right now, but hopefully I can get Blanche and myself to headline it and invite Keisha and Chuck out as well as some other Atlanta-based YouTubers and influencers, and just do an event, some panels, some speaking engagements, and just have a time to do some meet and greets. If you are a subscriber, a paying member of this show, then of course you'll get free tickets to it. But I'm wanting to put something like that together as a treat to you all and plan it in December. I'm only saying it now, even though all the details aren't solidified, in order to put it on your all's radar to save the date. Maybe I'll even work with Sub-Zero to try to, I'm not an event planner. So I am leaning on these folks to try to help bring this to fruition. So that's something I'm really wanting to do. It's been a while since I've been in Atlanta. I really enjoy going to the city, not for the decadence and the chaos, but just because there's things I do appreciate about the city of Atlanta. So what do you all think? Is that something that you want to see happen? Do you want to see or be a part of a live event in Atlanta? Is that something that you guys are into or interested in? Do comment in the comment section and let us know here in the live stream, and then after this video has been posted, and let us know whether if we do an event in Atlanta, whether that's something that you would like to be a part of. So let us know. Thank you all. God bless. See y'all next time.
All right, y'all. Love y'all.